That show me subscribe.
Make you stay with the only black people in y'all that only eat rat, eat cat people. You ain't black, you ain't that. Matter of fact, yo, black is repo, I'm taking it back. Cause y'all making it whack. Faking jacks, y'all from the slave, raiding the tax. Bitch. We built the foundation, our innovations were groundbreaking. Y'all ain't wanna get down, now you're around. Hating, faking, with the linear in and out, the ground shaking. Someone say, FBA, we don't run away. We stay, we slay, we pray, we say, Someone say, FBA, we don't run away. We stay, we slay, we pray, we say, Make no mistake, we're the only black people and y'all the only eat rat, eat cat people. You ain't black, you ain't that. Matter of fact, yo, black is repo, I'm taking it back. Cause y'all making it whack. Faking jacks, y'all from the slave, raiding the tax. Breaks, pause, pause. We built the foundation, our innovations were groundbreaking. Y'all ain't wanna get down, now you're around. Hating, faking, whittling and eating, now the ground shaking. Someone say, FBA, we don't run away. We stay, we slay, we pray, we say, Someone say, FBA, we don't run away. We stay, we slay, we pray, we say,
What it do, family? What it do? Or should I say, what it do? What it do, family? What it do? Or should I say, what it do? Scooby-Dooby-Doo. All right, all right, all right. Let me get this straight right here. Yeah, so there's this thing, okay, where, you know what? So we have a lot of Pan-Africans who are trying to minimize Africa's role in the transatlantic slave trade. You know, it's a trade, right? There's buyers and sellers. I don't know how you omit the sellers and leave the buyers there and still call it a trade. Who are they buying from? So the Pan-African narrative is that somehow Africans snuck to somehow white Europeans, Dutch, Portuguese, whoever, snuck to Africa undetected in like ninja gear and stole 12 to 15 million of us. Okay, that's FBA, that's the entire Caribbean. 12 to 15 million of us, and loaded us. I think this went on. How long is it going for? This went on for like almost 200 years, right? So the narrative from a Pan-African is that Europeans somehow went to Africa and stole. When you steal something, that means, you know, the idea is nobody can see you, right? You're doing it behind everybody's back or undetected. The Pan-African narrative is that Europeans went to Africa and stole somewhere between 12 to 15 million of us, diasporic people, for almost 200 years, and Africa didn't know. And then one day they woke up like, yo, where all the Negroes go? You think the white man stole them? Like this is the narrative that Pan-Afro-Cans want to try to sell you on. All right. So I'm here. I'm by Ron, FBA Ron, right? FBA News and Updates, my channel, is to expose that. Peace to the family. These Pan-Afro-Cans, they are all out trying to defend Africa, whose hand is bloody, whose hand is dusty, who underarm pits are musty. So I'm under the impression that once the FBA go Pan-Afro-Can, somehow they go belly up. Let's start with Professor Smalls. Professor Smalls said, "Hey, I'm FBA and I'm a RBG. I'm Pan-Afro-Can." And then you see how that turned out. He ended up, you know, uh, saying FBA, we're agents. Then you had Sarah Seti, who embraced his FBA lineage and said, "Yeah, don't worry, I'm FBA, but I'm still Pan-Afro-Can." Family, what happened to him? Belly up, sold the lineage out. You had Dr. Mayat. "Hey, people, I'm free. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play it. I'm Friedman and I'm Pan-Afro-Can." And then you see where she's at right now, belly up. So FBA's out there who are Pan-Afro-Can. Like, I don't know what it is, but it almost seemed like those two can't work together. It seems like you got to pick one, and they normally pick Africa. But the irony is Africa don't pick them back. It ain't like they have a lot of, African support. Most of these people support are FBAs. That's what leaves us scratching our head. Why are you selling out the lineage when most of your support comes from the lineage? It's not like Africa's backing you. They're leaving you out there to drown. So look at you guys seeing SETI numbers lately. I mean, it's embarrassing. He was live today. This dude had 10 live. This is Sarah SETI and OG. He had 10 live viewers, and he's still talking about Black African power. I'll be right back at you. Hey, hit the Patreon. Yeah, subscribe. Yeah, I got the illest information. He's talking to four people. I'm like, dude, you don't have no awareness, my guy. You got no ego, no pride. You're talking to four. I remember earlier, sometime 2025. I'm gonna say around this time, 2025. This dude had like 300 people live, and of course it was FBA. So these guys be selling their souls for Pan-Afro-Cans, right? And Afro-Cans from the continent, but the love ain't there. That's why I got a song called "You Got to Show Me Love." You dig? Before I vouch for you, before I consider you, you got to show me love. Yeah, these guys don't sell no books to Afro-Cans. They sell no clothing, no DVDs, no cartoons. You dig? Nothing. Afro-Cans don't buy nothing from any of these Pan-Afro-Cans in America. Nothing. All of their merchandise sales is coming from FBAs. The people they disrespect. So it's like suicide when they attack the lineage. It's like, yo, you just attacked your customer base, your livelihood. And then when they realize that, they just go harder against us. That's like ammunition to attack us more. It's like, yo, what business can attack their customer base, their consumer base, and survive? Nobody can. I don't give a damn how good your quality and product and service is. You dig? You attack your client base, your consumer base, they're gonna leave. Like, you know what I mean? Can you imagine going to your favorite restaurant and they're like got an attitude every time you order? The waitress coming over there like, come, I ain't got all day, come, just hurry up and order something. Eventually, family, no matter how good that food is, no matter how close that business is to your home, you like, you know what? I'm good. I'd rather drive another mile to get better service. You dig? So This is why the litmus test over here, when an FBA that's a Pan-Afro that's trying to hide it, we just ask them some questions, and they usually can't hold it. They can't hold it. They explode, or they start to be like they start to deny history very disrespectfully. You feel me? So where we at? Okay. All right. So Dr. Mayat went on to break down misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. Okay. She went to explain the difference between all three. And essentially, she said misinformation is unintentional mistakes. Somebody doing the right thing, their research methodology is flawed, and it leads them to a faulty conclusion. And then she said that there's disinformation, and this is people who knows better, but they're trying to go viral, or they're gaslighting somebody, right? So they're not really serious like that. Like they don't really believe the disinformation they're spreading. And then she said there's people that is tied in with malinformation. And these folks deliberately lie to Black Americans, deliberately lie to deceive foundational Black Americans. So I'm gonna play a video, you can hear it for yourself. And then after that, I'm going to play their information. And I want you guys to decide when because they're incorrect. So when I play the information, they're incorrect, I'm going to be correcting them. But I want you to decide in their incorrect information, are they misinformed? Are they like got good intentions? They just don't know no better, or they're like gaslighting us, purposely lying, or are they really with malinformation? Are they really just deliberately lying to us to deceive us with all ill intent? So you'll be able to judge that for yourself. Let's hear the breakdown from Dr. Mayat, the difference between, or the explanation for these three different types of information.
Unintentional mistakes, such as an inaccurate photo. In our case, we would say inaccurate information in a video. But when people do this, and it's unintentional. Now, disinformation now is intentional. It is fabricated or deliberately manipulated audio, visual content, intentionally created conspiracy theories or rumors. So with disinformation, it's intentional, right? People are actually fabricating this bad information. Malinformation is deliberate publication of private information for personal or corporate public interests. It's deliberate change of context, date, or time of genuine content. Unintentional mistakes, such as an inaccurate photo. In our case, we would say inaccurate information in a video. But when people do this, and it's unintentional. Now, disinformation now.
Okay, one more time.
Is intentional. It is fabricated or deliberately manipulated audio, visual content, intentionally created conspiracy theories or rumors. So with disinformation, it's intentional, right? People are actually fabricating this bad information. Malinformation is deliberate publication of private information for personal or corporate public interests. Is deliberate change of context, date, or time of genuine content. Unintentional.
Okay, so you got that right. Let me speak to people who consider themselves aboriginals in 2026 that's also claiming FBA, and those who say they're African and also claiming FBA, which are contradictions. Like, okay, so if you are aboriginal, if you were already here, okay, that's cool beans. If you came on slave ships, that means you came as an African. That's cool beans, right? But your unique experience over 100 years made you something different from an Aboriginal, or you could say indigenous American, indigenous person, African, West African, whatever tribe, coming to an America and going through U.S. chattel slavery for a bunch of years, and then Jim Crow, you became a new person. You're no longer Abo. You're no longer West African. There's nothing wrong with uh, acknowledging your African ancestry. As Tariq Nasheed says, there's nothing wrong with acknowledging your Aboriginal indigenous ancestries. Nothing wrong with that. Nobody's saying you got to give that up and deny it. Okay. But you have to know that that's put in the back burner. You are FBA, and that is put in the front burner. That's in the driver's seat. So it's FBA over your Africanness, and it's FBA over your indigenous or aboriginalness. Okay, so this is the issue we're having. So we're having people who say they came on slave ships and they're upholding their Africanness over their ethnogenesis, right? Their FBA-ness. And they now have a dual allegiance, or they flat out just claiming African over FBA, over your American ethnogenesis. And likewise, you have some Aboriginal, some indigenous people who are holding that over their ethnogenesis, their Americanness, right? So I don't see them different from each other. So I want to make that very clear. I don't see them different from each other. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging your African ancestry, your Africanness. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging your Aboriginal indigenous ancestry, your indigenous or Aborigines. But you're not that anymore. You haven't been that for hundreds and hundreds of years, 400 years, might I add. Okay. You haven't been African or Aboriginal for 400 years. You've been FBA. Okay. So make that very clear. All right. Let's move forward. Okay. So now, Dr. Maat, you heard her. She broke down misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. Okay. Now she's going to talk about some information with a clown, a unsuccessful clout chaser who's been a goofy ever since he's been on the internet. I want you to listen to how they recall I think Juneteenth and what language they use to describe foundational Black Americans who have successfully underwent a USA ethnogenesis. Listen to this language, and we're going to see, are they mistakenly misinforming us? Are they disinforming us to troll, clout chase, gaslight? Or are they malinforming us to deceive us, to make us believe a false lie, and that false narrative, a lie? Listen to this.
And so, there's I call it a hidden history. And the reason why I refer to it as hidden history is because it's not.
So now, family, you hear what she said? She calls it hidden history. Okay, so she's obviously borrowing, this is 2020, she's borrowing the language of Tariq Nasheed, Hidden Colors. And right now, family, she's one of his biggest trolls, trolls, TROLLS. She's calling Hidden Colors pseudo, is false information. But look at the grift. See, this is what happens. I keep warning you people. This is what happens when you come after somebody who didn't send for you, who happens to be a great researcher. Yeah, I dug you up. She's borrowing the language of Tariq Nasheed. She said, I call this hidden history. And as you know, she was on Hidden Colors. Okay. So now she's a fan. But she didn't get the success that she should have got, that she thought she should have got from the lineage, FBAs. So now she's a hater because she thinks that, okay, let me go against the lineage. This seems to be another way to get clout. She see that as a shortcut instead of putting in the long hard work that unbiased Ron, FBA Ron, and the lineage here that represents FBA News and Updates. She don't want to put in the hard work. She takes the shortcut. All right, well, let me go against Tariq Nasheed like a tether, and maybe I can get, notoriety, YouTube fame that way. But one more time, you're going to hear this troll, this grifter. This is a grifter. She said hidden history, she calls it. Listen.
I call it a hidden history, and the reason why I refer to it as hidden history is because it's not taught in the public school curriculum. But there's some hidden history about Memorial Day, and that hidden history is that Memorial Day was founded by free captives. I hate using the word slaves, but
So she hate using the word slave. She said free captives. Well, you don't got to say free slaves. You can say, because at that point, we're American citizens at this point, right? You could just say Black Americans. You can just say Black people. You don't got to say free anybody. Well, how about just say our status? We were freedmen. Ain't that the proper, like, who says free captives? Who says free slaves? Who says that? We say freedmen. By the way, family, to let you know how disingenuous she is, she actually calls herself a freedman. Hold on. Hold on. So I'm going to show you how disrespectful she is because she calls herself a freedman. So she knows the proper label to call herself. But instead, she said, I don't want to call them free slaves. Well, call them what you call yourself. She calls herself a freedman. That's what they were. Okay. That's what we know us as, right? Aren't we foundational Black Americans? Aren't we sometimes called interchangeably, synonymously, Solon or ADOS? Okay, so why do you gotta say free slaves or free captives? Why not just use the terminology that we use that's on record today? The terminology where we can sue for reparations, freedmen, our legal status. Okay, family. So this is gonna make you look at her sideways. So it's not like she didn't know better. Like, okay, well, I wasn't thinking. My fault. I made a mistake in choice of words. It wasn't deliberate, but it was. Watch this. Give me a second. Give me a second. Freedman. So I'm gonna go back and show you where she said that she didn't want to call our ancestors who were called freedmen after the abolishment of slavery, Emancipation Proclamation. She didn't want to call them free slaves. Why would you call them that? They're known as our ancestors was known as freedmen. Okay. So hold on. I got you. Hold on to 1 second. 1 second. Let me pull this up. I had it earlier and I clicked off it by mistake. I got her. She ain't going to escape. She is not going to escape. She is not going to escape accountability. Not today. Not tomorrow. Okay. Here we go. I got it, family. I told you I got it. Ho. So I'm gonna back it up now. I want to show you that for some reason, when it comes to our educated, that so-called woke, why do our educated, that so-called woke, why do they turn on the lineage? The woke ones. The woke, and when I say woke, I'm saying it with all quotations. And I'm going to quote Dr. Khalid Muhammad, what happens with them, okay? If you don't mind. Because he seemed to have the answer for that. Check this out.
And Malcolm was able to handcuff scholars all over America. So some with 2 PhDs. But when white folks can't defeat you, they'll always find some Negro, some boot-licking, butt-licking, buck-dancing, bamboozled, half-baked, half-fried, sissified, punkified, pasteurized, homogenized. They can trot out in front of you. I hear you had one of these Negro.
Okay, so he said when a white man can't defeat you, and by the way, if you catch the beginning of it, he said they have a PhD.
And Malcolm was able to handcuff scholars.
See, so he said Malcolm. So the context was their scholarship, their education. These are professionals. These are people with doctorate degrees. So he said Malcolm X was able to handcuff people with doctorate degrees, scholarship. You know, Dr. Ruxpin. You see, Brother Reggie. All of them try to make us bow down and appeal to authority because they have a certificate, right, from a college. Okay, and for some reason they must be right in everything they discuss, but none of their doctorate is in what they talk about on social media, right? Brother Reggie and Dr. Maat, they have an engineering degree. They don't have a historian or Black history degree or American history degree. Okay, so when they come over here and discuss Black history, discuss politics, discuss what we discuss, it's even Steven. Your doctor doesn't hold in this lane. But one more time, let's check this out.
And Malcolm was able to handcuff scholars all over America. Some with 2 PhDs.
He said with 2 PhDs. You heard him. So the whole thing was we ain't gotta bow down to a coon because they got a PhD. They got to teach correct information and they got to avoid the 3 negative informations: the misinformation, the disinformation, and the malinformation. Okay.
Some with 2 PhDs.
With 2 PhDs.
But when white folks can't defeat you, they'll always find some Negro, some boot-licking,
They'll find that boot-licking, buck dancing Negro when they can't defeat you. And look at all of these, look at all these professionals, well-spoken, articulate, decorated with education. The main ones out here fighting against FBA. This is a prophecy, family. This is like, I think it's like 1990. It's like 30 years ago. This is right after Jesse Jackson introduced African American. Okay. And what he's saying is when white folks can't defeat you, they'll just send one of your own, but the PhDs, with the masters, you know, the bachelors, they must be right. They can mislead you because they got this certificate, this degree. So with 2 PhDs, what else?
Some with 2 PhDs. But when white folks can't defeat you, they'll always find some Negro, some boot-licking, butt-licking, buck-dancing, bamboozled, half-baked, half-fried, sissified, punkified, pasteurized, homogenized. They can trot out in front of you.
That they can trot out in front. They'll find that pasteurized, homogenized, boot-licking, buck-dancing Negro to send out in front of you to deceive you, to be the wolf in sheep's clothing. And we see that play out too often. And right now, I'm exposing one right now. Listen to this wolf in sheep's clothing. Listen to this homogenized, pasteurized, discodified, compromised, boot-licking, buck-dancing, 2 PhD. Listen to this.
I call it a hidden history. And the reason why I refer to it as hidden history is because it's not taught in the public school curriculum. But there's some hidden history about Memorial Day. And that hidden history is that Memorial Day was founded by free captives. I hate using the word slaves, but I would say free African captives. And people.
So she rather say free African captives. Interesting, because look what she says right here. Look what she knows better. So again, family, is this disinformation, misinformation, or malinformation? She said, I hate saying freed slaves, so I'd rather say free African captives. Why not just say freedmen like you've been saying? Family, listen. Her credibility is gone.
No, of course not. I'm still A.
I'm
Right.
rolling. I'm rolling with Friedman. I'm rolling with Friedman.
No, I'm not rolling with Friedman. I'm rolling with Friedman in specific.
I'm rolling with Friedman. Okay, so let me let you guys see it for yourself. So you know it ain't AI. Hold on. I'm rolling with Friedman. So Dr. Maya, you ain't gotta say freed slaves. Just say freedmen. Go with what you're rolling with.
And so, well, I call it a hidden history. And the reason why I refer to it as hidden history is because it's not taught in the public school curriculum. But there's some hidden history about Memorial Day. And that hidden history is that Memorial Day was founded by free captives. I hate using the word slaves, but I would say free African captives. And people.
Well, why even say that? Just say this. Just say what you've been saying.
No, of course not. I'm still A.
I'm rolling with Friedman. I'm rolling with Friedman.
No, I'm not rolling with Friedman. I'm rolling with Friedman in specific cases, right? If need be.
That's what I said. I said that on the phone. Go ahead.
Family. Is that misinformation? Is that unintentional? Is she gaslighting? Is she trying to get a reaction from us? Is she trying to go viral? Or is she deliberately trying to deceive foundational Black Americans and whoever else, Tethers and whoever else? She don't want to say freed slaves. She'd rather say free African captives. But she don't want to use the term that she's rolling with, freedmen. Okay. Just let her finish.
Typically don't talk about that. And so I said, well, you know what? I'm going to do a quick little show where I present this article, and let me pull it up right now. I wanted to comb through this article, family, and share it with you. Okay. The name of the article is The Overlooked Black History of Memorial Day. And this article was published by Time Magazine. You see that it was published by Olivia Waxman on May the 22nd, 2020. Okay, so
she said 2020. She knows better. All right, so now let me go into her agenda. All right. Hold on. I'm gonna put a poll up there too.
Was established by free African captives. Okay, and the first
family, you heard what she said? She said this was established by freed African captives. Remember, she's reading an article from the Times, right? So the Time has to cite their work. Where is Time Magazine? Where is Time Magazine getting this information from, right? So that means that there's an original article somewhere. There's an original article somewhere. Hold on. Let me get my my computer don't die. Okay. So she's rolling with freed African captives. But Time Magazine, she's reading an article from Time Magazine. But Time Magazine got the information from somewhere. They're doing a report on information that's already published. Okay. So family, are you following? So she said, I don't want to use freed slaves. I'm going to say freed African captives. But Time Magazine, what language where did Time Magazine get the article from, and what language is used in the original article? Now she know better. I just played to you that she know about freedmen. She's rolling with freedmen, but she want to say freed African captives. Now, is she dealing with misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation? Wait till you understand where Time Magazine got the article from. I'm gonna give you the author of the article, and I'm gonna let you know what language he used. Did he use freedmen, freed slaves, or freed African captives? Okay, so let me just make sure that she's done with her line.
Memorial Day took place on May the 1st, 1865 in Charleston, South Carolina, okay, at a former planters racetrack where Confederates held captured Union soldiers during the last year of the war. At least 257 prisoners died, many of disease, and were buried in unmarked graves. So the Black residents of Charleston decided to give them a proper burial.
You heard she said the Black residents of Charleston decided to give them a proper burial. You see, the actual Time magazine article didn't say freed African captives. It didn't say freed slaves. It said Black Americans. One more time. She's reading verbatim.
Many of disease and were buried in unmarked graves. So the Black residents of Charleston.
The Black residents of Charleston. Dr. Maat, why not just use the information that's coming from the article? Why add? Why add to the article your agenda, your agent agenda?
Decided to give them a proper burial. All right. And so, family, right here, you're looking at, let me give it this. So, this is a clubhouse at the race course. All right. Let me show it to you. This was a clubhouse, okay, at the race course where Union soldiers were held prisoners. Okay. All right. So, in approximately 10 days leading up to the event, roughly 24 African American Charlestonians reorganized the graves.
So now she read African American, but where does it say freed African captives? Now, let's kill the suspense. Let's kill the suspense. Let's find out who's the author of this article.
In captives, in a quick little show where I present this article, and let me pull it up right now. I wanted to comb through this article, family, and share it with you. Okay. The name of the article is The Overlooked Black History of Memorial Day. And this article was published by Time magazine. You see that it was published by Olivia Waxman on May the 22nd, 2020. Okay, so just 3 days ago, this article was released. All right, and so the first picture that you're looking at, it says on April 1865, this is April 1865 photo of the graves of Union soldiers buried at the race course turned Confederate prison, where historians believe the earliest Memorial Day ceremony took place. Okay, so this is right. This Confederate prison is located.
Yeah, so don't confuse the publisher with the author of the original information that Time magazine is using. Okay,
right in Charleston, South Carolina. Okay, so just bear with me for a little bit, family. So it says nowadays Memorial Day honors veterans of all wars, but it's
okay. So we're gonna skip past that. I want her to. I believe she's gonna cite the original author of the article.
Memorial Day tribute is not as well remembered, is emblematic of the struggle that would follow as African Americans fight to be continued to this day. It could Sean P that we didn't know about, and it was actually, and I have to give props to our dear brother Black Panther brother.
Okay, so she mentioned a bunch of guys as goofy. The guy on the right side is the guy who didn't know that all races produce albinos. That's the guy I didn't know. Okay, he wondered why he only got 10 live viewers every time he goes live. All right, so now let me do this. Let me do this. Allow me to introduce myself. Let me do this. So bear with me. I want her to read the author of the article that Time magazine was using. Okay. So I think it's right over here somewhere. Okay. Give me a second. Bear with me. I got you. I ain't going nowhere. I ain't going nowhere. I'm right here. I'll be right by your side. Okay. Oh shit. Ba, 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 ba. Okay. Ba, 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 ba. Let me find the guy. Um, okay, there we go. Okay. I found it, family. I found it. You know I got y'all, right? Okay. So she's actually going to name the original author of this article. Listen to this.
Graves in the Civil War Hospital, town of Columbus, Mississippi in April 1866. But historians like the Pulitzer Prize winner David Blight have tried to raise awareness.
David Blight, the historian. What type of prize winner?
Town of Columbus, Mississippi in April 1866. But historians like the Pulitzer Prize winner David.
The Pulitzer Prize winner, who?
Blight have tried to raise awareness. Historians like the Pulitzer Prize winner David Blight have tried to.
David Blight. So now we want to know the author of this story that Time Magazine is using. We want to know, what did he call those foundational Black Americans? Did he call them freedmen, freed slaves, or freed African captives? Because she said, I don't want to say freed slaves. Well, you shouldn't. Just use the terminology that David Blight did, the Pulitzer Award winner guy, right? Okay. So just keep in mind, family, we never identified ourselves as African, regardless of what we called our institution, regardless of what we called our banks, regardless of what we called our churches. That was to acknowledge African ancestry, but we still called ourselves Negro and colored, regardless of the institution, organization, or church. We didn't say, hey, that African over there. We said that colored man, that Negro woman. All right. So we never identified ourselves as African captives. Never. We were freedmen, free Negroes, colored citizens. That was the terminology after the abolishment of slavery. And that matters because it retroactively, okay, Pan-Africanizes our ancestors who were forming Black American civic identity, okay, by calling them free African captives. That erases our American ethnogenesis. Okay, so she's going to lose all credibility here, and her doctorate should be snatched. Okay, so they didn't call themselves, we didn't call ourselves African. That's modern Pan-African language being projected backward. That's why I call these folks revisionists, right? They revise history. Okay, so our ancestors were building Black American civic identity. So that is another trick in the language that they do. They keep calling our ancestors free African captives, right? Again, that's modern Pan-African language being forced onto 1865 Black Americans. So when we do the same thing, when we say, hey, when we go ahead and look at history and we call them foundation Black Americans, we will get pushback. They'll say they didn't call themselves that. But these dusty, musty people would say African. They didn't call themselves that. Okay, double standard people, man. So they didn't call themselves African. They were not acting as Africans. They were acting as Black Americans, freedmen claiming citizenship, dignity, and American space. Their contribution stands on its own. It doesn't need a myth, an African myth, and it definitely doesn't need African inserted where it wasn't. Liar. Freed people. Check this out, family. The actual quote, the article they got this from is David W. Blight. His article, Race and Reunion in 2001. His actual quote was, freed people sought dignity, citizenship, and recognition within the American nation they had helped preserve. That did not say freed slaves. That did not say free African captives. So the author of the original article, family, his words were freed people. Freed people sought dignity, citizenship, and recognition within the American nation they had helped preserve. But this Dusty Musty said, I don't want to call them freed slaves. I'm going to instead call them freed African captives. Why not just call them what the author called them and what they call themselves? They call themselves freed people. Okay? Freedmen. Okay, hold on. 1 second. Oh, it gets worse. Okay. So now that's out the way. Okay. So was that misinformation, disinformation, malinformation? Somebody said all three. Okay, I can go with that. I can go with that. I can go with that. So free people, not, he called them free people, freedmen. He didn't say African captives. He didn't say, he didn't use Pan-African ideology, and he didn't use continental framing. All right. So Black Americans don't need exaggerated history, Dr. Maat. We already have real history that Unbiased Ron, FBA Ron, covers. The Charleston event proves we were already an emerging ethno-political group, not Africans, not Pan-Africanists, but foundational Black Americans asserting place in the United States. Okay, so now her stool pigeon is going to say this. You know, they got to keep lying, right?
Sure. Just to add a little bit to what you were basically saying, where does this all come from? So let's start with the article that you just read, and then we walk backwards. Well, and what's so important is the fact that you, in the article, it was mentioned Beaufort, South Carolina, right? Or Charleston, South Carolina. We hear a lot of South Carolina when we talk about the earlier Africans that arrived here from West Africa, right? Because of the plantations and so on and so forth. And then we hear about the things that they brought with them. And this makes the Gullah people so significant to us, is because it holds true to our African roots coming through Beaufort, Charleston, and places like that. So in the book, Africanisms in American Culture, on page 157,
Africanisms in American culture. Family, that's called confirmation bias. Now, what is the chances he'll read from a book called Africanisms in American culture? Like, see, that's an assertion. That's projection. That's confirmation bias. They're reading things that go with their narrative that we just Africans in America, no ethnogenesis. Okay. That's disrespectful. That's unscholarly. All right. So he just said Gullah culture. Whatever the Gullah Geechee people are doing, that is not representation of all Black Americans in 50 states. He talked about Yoruba, Igbo customs. Again, that is not a universal African practice. All right. He talked so they're ignoring American-born Black institutions, HBCU, churches, et cetera, et cetera. They're ignoring Christian influence. Oh, they'll never say the church. They hate to admit that. They'll only say the church when it comes to AME, but they would disregard the church influence, and they will never speak on local conditions. So African influence existed in the early beginning when we got here off the boats. But what we're seeing here and what we're reading is Black Americans creating new traditions in America, not just copying things from Africa. Okay, so that weakens that lie, that projection, that weakens their argument by romanticizing Africa instead of emphasizing Black American adaptation. We're adapting. All right. So let's be clear. Foundational Black Americans, we did contribute early and meaningfully. We were forming distinct civic traditions in America, not Africa. We were not acting as Africans, but as new Americans. Our contribution doesn't need exaggeration to matter to weirdos. If we were so beloved and dreamed about Africa every day, family, it'll be more than just 12,000 people going to Liberia. Again, they were in between 350,000 to 500,000 free Blacks before abolition of slavery. And the ACS was funding trips to Africa. Why only 12,000? Family, listen to this. They try to frame it that we were just so in love with Africa. Why only 12,000 out of 500,000 went to Liberia? You know how tiny a percentage that is, family? We were not off no damn Africa, nothing. We were American. But liars do lie. Misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. But it don't stop. It doesn't stop there. Okay, but before I go on, that was 2020, but 1989, a Nation of Islam member already prophesied that homogenized, pasteurized, compromised coon would come 30 years later and do just that in place of white supremacy. Listen to his words. They're eerie concerning what they tried to do 30 years earlier.
See, even you are guilty of those of you who are advocating this African, you're guilty yourself of trying to distort your own history. That you want to pretend like you are the same people that was brought over here 400 years ago.
You're guilty of plagiarizing history. You want to pretend you're the same people that were brought here 400 years ago. Family, this is 10-10-89. So he's speaking to what they attempted to do. And he's from the organization of Dr. Khalid Muhammad. Matter of fact, this is the same time, this is the same year that Dr. Khalid Muhammad said, when a white man can't defeat you, they will send a pasteurized, homogenized, compromised Negro. This is the same year. So they were on her antics 30 years early. Check it out.
See, even you are guilty of those of you who are advocating this African, you're guilty yourself of trying to distort your own history. That you want to pretend like you are the same people that was brought over here 400 years ago. And that nothing happened to you since you've been here. You the same black African now that you were then. That ain't true.
That should give you guys goosebumps, the chills. That's exactly what she tried to do 30 years after he's made that statement. That's crazy, man. But again, it takes a thorough researcher to put this together. Now, she's going to do it again. So that was in America. She's acting like Pan-Africanism was going on during Juneteenth. Okay, cool. Now she's going to lie 30 years later again about Pan-Africanism, Pan-Africanism in Africa. Listen to this.
ignorance. So you said, I'm not against Pan-Africanism, but they're not doing it in Africa. They actually are. And I'm just going to give you one example to help you out. I want you to Google the Alliance of the Sahel States, right? The AES.
I want you to remember that, the AES. She said the Alliance of the Sahel State. She's going to pretend like they're practicing Pan-Africanism in Africa. Listen.
And then come back to the conversation. Go ahead, Brother Ankh.
Did you want to pull that up though?
Yeah, I can. I mean,
so he asked her to pull it up. I can. You see, she ain't do it herself. He said, she's like, hey, pull that up. He called her bluff. Pull that up. Show us that they practice Pan-Africanism.
I can. It's the Alliance States, right? The AES. And then come back to the conversation. Go ahead, Brother Ankh.
Did you want to pull that up though?
Yeah, I can. I mean, I can. It's the Alliance.
You got the president Burkina Faso.
Exactly.
He's a Pan-African. He's playing the game at the highest level now. He's saying, you know what? I'm not comfortable with the French. Get the F out. That's what real nations do. They put you out when your business interests don't align. You put them out, and they found another partner that they aligned themselves with. They're allies with Russia. This is an important alliance for them. They could choose America. They could choose China, right? They could choose the French, the British.
Why they didn't choose another African nation? She just said Pan-Africanism was practiced amongst these nations. She said, go Google the Sahel Alliance, the AES. And this guy snitched on her. He debunked her. He said, hey, they was working with the French, white people. They dropped them and they took on the Russians, another white people. Where are the African nations they're taking on in place of white people? That's not Pan-Africanism. Is Pan-Africanism dropping one white man for another? The madness continues. Listen.
So guys, when ladies and gentlemen, when you say stuff like Pan-Africanism isn't happening, it's not practiced on the continent. Again, Google AES, right? The Sahel Alliances. Google Julius Malema. Google.
Oh, we did. Ron, FBA Ron definitely did the research on the AES. And I don't find what you said. But again, Dr. Khalid Muhammad said, when a white man can't defeat you, they'll send a lying Negro out there who's homogenized, plagiarized, pasteurized, and compromised.
Google the African Union. And these are just little tidbits that Doc is giving you. Tidbits. Go and Google that stuff. Then come back.
Little tidbits, like she just so deep, like she got so much more under her rainbow.
And join the conversation. Okay. Read a book, right?
There they go with that. Read a book. And of course, when she said it, she had to hold up a book that's brand new. You could tell she never looked through it. They just buy each other books, don't even read them. Hey, read a book. What book? You just said Google AES. So now, family, I want y'all to pay attention because she's gaslighting her ops in the chat to go Google. And then when they Google, you'll see later, and when they Google and cook her, she's going to say, oh, you guys out there Googling, go read a book. She just encouraged them twice, different time frames, to go Google the AES Sahel Alliance. And when they did, and when they Google other stuff that contradicted what she said, she condemned them for Googling and said, read a book. So families, keep that in mind. We're going to revisit this. She's saying Google, Google, Google. And then when it backfires on her, well, all y'all do is Google. You need to read a book.
Read a book. Okay. Read a book. All right. Then come back and join the conversation.
So she didn't grab like 6 different books she never read, brand new. All right, cool. Okay. So Dr. Maat, you're in luck. FBA Ron Googled it. The AES, Sahel Alliance, family, that is Burkina Faso and like 3-4 other small nations that linked up with them. They broken away from ECOWAS, right? We'll deal with that later. But just know this. Just know the AES, Sahel Alliance, is better understood as a regional security and sovereignty bloc, not a Pan-Africanist nation that link up with other Pan-African nations in the classic sense, right? The diaspora sense. American Pan-Africanists mean, okay? That's not what happened with the AES Sahel Alliance. She just lied. What is the AES? Okay. The AES stands for Alliance of Sahel States. Listen, is a pact between Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. 1, 2, 3 countries. Their military-led governments facing jihadist insurgencies, sanctions, and diplomatic pressure, a desire to reduce reliance of France, ECOWAS, and other external actors. Now, I want you to, I'm going to do this. Watch this. I'm going to do something dangerous that I hate doing. Let's wing it. Let's freestyle. Because she said this is Pan-Africanism. That's what she said. Watch this. Okay. So the Alliance of Sahel State, AES, comprising 1 Mali, 2 Burkina Faso, and Niger, just three countries, formally withdrew from ECOWAS. Okay, so now keep in mind ECOWAS. They broke away from ECOWAS on January 29th, 2025, primarily due to intense dissatisfaction with the bloc's served sanctions following their respective military coups. They accused ECOWAS of being manipulated by foreign powers, failing to support their fight against jihadist insurgency and hindering national national sovereignty. Now, keep in mind, they broke away. Look, it says formally withdrew from ECOWAS. Who is ECOWAS? Is that white people? What's this? Who's ECOWAS? ECOWAS is, I want to discuss it. It says, look, the Economic Community of West African States family, ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States. So Burkina Faso broke away from other West African states. They didn't break away from ECOWAS. ECOWAS doesn't mean European nations. ECOWAS are West African states, West African countries. How is that Pan-Africanism? To divide yourself from 15 is a 15-member regional organization founded on May 28th, 1975. How is that Pan-Africanism to break away from 15 other West African states and you're just 3? Listen to the other ones. Member states: Benin, Burkina Faso, Cape Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, the Gambia, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mali, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, and Togo. Family, how is that Pan-Africanism when you're dividing against the majority of West African states that's linked up? 3 left. 15 left. So it's 18 altogether, 3 left. That's called being divisive. You guys probably thought ECOWAS was a bunch of European nations they divided from. No, they delineated from themselves, West Africans. So how is that the epitome of Pan-Africanism? I guess it is. I guess Pan-Africanism is all about dividing and conquering themselves. Right. So what does Pan-African usually mean according to these clowns over here? Right. They say it's a broad unity project for Africans and the diaspora, long-term continental integration, economic, political, shared identity, politics, and liberation ideology, sometimes diaspora inclusion as a key feature. Okay, that's a really big umbrella of ideas. It's not just neighboring cooperating, right? Neighbors cooperating. So no, no, that is not Pan-Africanism. Okay. They left, they divided from Pan-Africanism with ECOWAS. Anyway, this is what happens when you come for people who didn't call for you. All right. Anyway, let's move on from there. Now, yeah. This is Cook City. Okay, so they normally do that. They normally establish straw man arguments, plebiscite babble. This is what they normally do. Look, it's supposed to have they got my cash app wrong over there. So we got it. I think let me fix that. Let me fix the cash. I can't post that. That's wrong. So I pointed out that she deceptively used freed African captives in place of what the wording the author chose. The author chose freedmen, free people. She chose free African captives. Okay. So anyway, why do Pan-Africans deny Africa's huge role in slave raids, kidnapping us, and selling us? So let me get some case in points. Okay. So we're going to go with Africans themselves denying Africa's large role in selling us and kidnapping us. And then we're going to go and show foundational Black Americans denying Africa's role in kidnapping us and selling us to white people. All right, so let's start with Africans. Viewer discretion advised. This is going to be cringy because they're so disrespectful. And I'm playing around with some merch, by the way. I'm playing around. So now I can make it any color I want. It don't got to be a hat like this. I can make it like a feminine hat. But this is what I'm working on. All right, some merch. Matching. I can make this both black, both white, both blue, both yellow, whatever. But on code. And I got a dope logo for B1. B1 logo I got is the Black Power Fist converted into B1. So this is some dope merch I'm gonna have for purchase soon. And this is the dope logo I got for B1. It's the Black Power Fist converted to a B with the 1. And this is also gonna be on merch. So you'll have your choice. You can have the own code on the hat and shirt, jacket, purse, whatever, cup, mug, or you can choose the B1 on your stuff. And then I think that's fly. That's pretty dope. Cause I feel like we need a subtle subtle gathering. Like we need some apparel. Cause I know you guys do what I do. I know you walk past Foundation Black Americans all the time. You be wondering, I wonder if they on code. I wonder if they know about their lineage. It's all about the lineage, baby. You did, because if we did, we will engage in conversation. But we don't know what they on, so we kind of just walk past them. But with the apparel, that's an immediate conversation starter with your lineage family. So let me tell you that I experienced a lot of this, and family, trust me, this is the most beautiful feeling when no matter where you are in this country, on earth, when you see your lineage rocking the gear that unites you, and you could trust them for like directions or whatever because that's your lineage relative. I experienced this in the Nation of Islam. So Nation of Islam, of course, we had like the universal flag or the Nation of Islam flag, whatever. So no matter where we went in this country, California, New Mexico, if you seen another member, right, and it was clear because they had like that little haircut with a little part in it, but it was clear like they were Nation of Islam, maybe a button. Maybe you heard them say "Assalamu alaikum," something like that. Family, it was guaranteed that they were going to treat you or an impact like their immediate relative. That's a fact. So a lot of you guys ain't experienced that with complete strangers, like just black American strangers. That as soon as you meet, and it's like an on code thing. Oh, you're with the Nation of Islam, so am I. All right, so we have to link up. It was like our duty to link up. You dig? So we're trying to bring that back with the lineage. So certain apparel, certain rings, like maybe a gold, like a little ring. Because we had the Islamic flag ring, gold, 14 gold, or 14 karat, 18 karat, whatever. You could have a gold B1 ring. So the little things that we seen that another Black American had, and we knew that they were one of us. It was an immediate conversation, family. So I'm trying to come together with some stuff like that, where some apparel, some type of symbolic stuff that's subtle on code. What that mean to the average American? I don't mean nothing. The B1 logo, that don't mean nothing to nobody. That don't even mean nothing to Black Americans who don't know they're Black and don't know they're foundational. They should be one. That don't mean nothing to them. So I think we need a subtle code, subtle symbolisms to link up with each other. Okay. So I'm coming up with that. Some dope ideas to signal boost the lineage. All right. Let me play this right here.
But we're going to do something that's great for our country. We're going to make America great again for everybody, but we're going to make America great again also. And I'm not sure I can say necessarily again in this case for African Americans. We're going to make America great for all of our country, but for African Americans. And maybe we have to leave the word again out. You understand what I mean? Because maybe there is no again. We're going to make it great for you and great for everybody, and that's important. Our country's gone through hell, and in many cases, our country is in hell right now, and we're going to turn it around. We're going to turn it around.
So that's embarrassing. You got white people who got heavy rumors out that they're racist, but they can give us flowers with no problem, no problema. But you have people who are of the same lineage, but into the religion of Pan-Africanism, and you have tethers, whether from Africa or the Caribbean, who can't show us no love, no flowers, nothing for all of our greatness that we have done in America that the world benefits from. They can't give us one flower, not even a fake one. But you got white people who are rumored to be racist, Tucker Carlson, Ann Coulter, and Donald Trump. That's like, yeah, you're foundational. Yeah, no problem with that. They got no problem giving us our flowers for our greatness. And you want us to like view this guy as what, a devil? A guy who gives us flowers? And he might be the most racist person in the world. But what that make you, that the most racist person in the world can give us flowers for what we accomplished, and you can't? What that make you? That make you a tether. And a tether is worse than any white racist. All right? Because you're supposed to know better. We don't expect somebody from like a whole different world to understand the glow, the FBA glow. So let's go. That's the B1 logo. That's kind of fly. I ain't gonna lie. All right, so now back to this. So now you see Donald Trump, President Donald Trump can give us flowers. This is the second time he's publicly giving us flowers. Like, nah, y'all deserve it. Remember Lyndon Baines Johnson gave that freedom speech? Do I have that somewhere? Hold on. Let me see if I got that. I hope I didn't delete it. I don't think I deleted it. So you got, and Lyndon Baines Johnson was also rumored to be a deep racist. So how is that possible? How are white people rumored to be racist can give us flowers at the drop of a dime, but people who supposedly be our family or, supposed to have unity with us or some type of brotherly love with us can't give us anything, not even fake flowers. Let me see if I deleted that. Yeah, I think I deleted it. I got it in the clip though. So let me just show you Ann Coulter giving us the same credit.
The entire purpose of affirmative action, set-asides, civil rights laws that limit constitutional rights to freedom of contract, freedom of association, all of that was to make up for the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. So unless these benefits are going to, roughly defined, foundational Black Americans, the descendants of American slaves, you've taken away the whole purpose of this. So to make the point that Kamala isn't a foundational Black American, I'm always pointing to unless these benefits are going to, roughly defined, foundational Black Americans.
And they even call us by our respected name, the name that we self-identify with. She didn't say African American. She could have. She could have said something else. You dig? Africans in America. She said the name that we prefer to be called, foundational Black Americans. But a tether wouldn't dare call us foundational Black Americans. Even the Pan-Africans, the Pan-Africans, the Pan-Afro-Coons, the Pan-Afro-Cants refuse to call us foundational Black Americans, but they expect some type of unity. Stop. All right, so now you heard President Donald Trump, active President Donald Trump, give us flowers many times about, matter of fact, let's do the other one.
The entire purpose of foundation benefits are going to slaves, the descendants of American slaves.
African Americans built this nation. You built this nation.
Foundational.
You're just starting to get real credit for that. Okay, I don't know if you know that.
Foundational.
You're just starting to you built the nation. We all built it, but you were such a massive part of it.
Massive part of it. You checked the live last night. These African tethers act like we had and even the Latino tethers act like we had no part in the foundation of this country. And we had the biggest part, the biggest role. We played the biggest role in the foundation of this country. So you got two white people who are rumored to be big racists. And then what about the Tucker Carlson? Let me pull that one up on the fly. I didn't even have that one in my playing deck, my playing card deck. Let me see if I can pull it up on the fly. Hopefully it don't take too long. But I get my point. You got white people who are rumored to be racist, Republicans, conservatives that can give us our flowers and respect the terminology, what we want to be called. But people who supposedly that we supposed to be being in unity with can't respect. Now they call us term. We be like, yo, I'm not African American. Yo, I'm not this, I'm not that. And they just keep calling us it over and over and over. Okay, so hold on.
Yo.
And these African tethers, this is all virus. This is all viral access media right now.
Make sure y'all tune in to all viral access media, man. Make sure y'all subscribe. Let's get it. Peace.
So he's FBA. He got his YouTube channel. I'm showing love. Normally, I don't even I just play the audio from channels. I don't shout them out. But when they FBA, I make it my business to shout out their channel. Even though we're competing for viewership, it's all love, man. At the end of the day, I'm not competing with my relatives. Listen, man, it's 43 million of us, bro. There's enough of us to go around to everybody's channel where we're all successful, right? I ain't worried about that.
Everybody, welcome back to All Viral Access Media, man. Now, I had that publican about, not come back.
Which reminded me that Byron's mother is Jamaican, he is Panamanian, and they found it quite insulting, in their words, that he would try to claim victimhood of slavery without a single descendant of American slaves in his family.
I like those foundational guys.
They're so good.
Tariq Nasheed and all. I mean, I don't agree with everything, but they've got a perspective. If your family's been here 400 years, and the descendants of a lot of American slaves or families have been here 400 years, I don't know. I think that gives. I'll listen to you. You've
100%.
You've got a point of view that is legitimate, I think.
Yeah. And they're unequivocally heritage Americans.
That's for sure.
100%.
They're definitely heritage Americans, if anyone is. And, someone rolls in from Ghana and gets an MSNBC slot and starts speaking on behalf of black people. It's like, shut up, honey. You've got nothing to do with this.
Right.
That's
Literally.
a fair perspective,
right.
I think.
And so it's good to actually see them call them out for that. That's actually cultural appropriation. Appropriating the struggle of slavery.
I totally agree.
And the struggle of slavery was real. I don't think Republicans ever want to really whitewash that. It's real, no. Right? But for
we're
Byron,
against slavery.
We're against it.
Whether it's in the, West Bank or here or anywhere. Yeah, against it.
And so for Byron's group, his team, to call me and essentially our entire supporting base racists for saying that you're a slave when quite literally you took $45 million. You won't tell us what you agreed to take that money this early in a primary, which is unprecedented. You know this, how unprecedented that kind of money is in an uncontested primary until now. But secondarily, to actually go out and try to gaslight us and think that you're just one of those guys that has been here, since the early 1800s and your family was in the struggle too. You're not. And that's a very interesting term that the foundational Black Americans use. It's called tether. They're tethering these tethers like Byron Donalds. They come here literally one generation in, and they try to just sit around and act so folksy that we're all part of the same struggle and we're all down on and we need to fight against. No, you just got here, dude. Like the Haitians, like the guys from Ghana who just got here. You don't get to just be a part of our system and then lecture us about how our country went wrong.
Called him a tether. God, I know that hurts. That hurts. Oh, white man called you a tether. Oh, that hurts. Oh my God, their soul is burning. Oh, I know it is. Okay, so supposedly racist white America can meet our demands and call us what we wish to be called, but tethers just can't find it in their heart. So family, listen, I'm going to continue with the show. All right. Now, all that right there, the Donald Trump and culture and Tucker Carlson, this was not part of the show. This is just, I'm just winging it. You feel me? I just felt like I needed to do that. It fit what I'm doing. It fit the show. Now, pay attention to this. So Dr. Maat got a Caribbean dude, cool as hell. He seemed very genuine. He is not a tether. He seemed very sincere. He's a Pan-African, but he seemed very, very cool. He from what I've been watching him more, he really believes in Pan-Africanism. He has a pure heart. He's not deceptive. He's not trying to undermine FBAs. He ain't speaking against us. He ain't even speaking about us. You dig? He's focused on his Pan-African activism. You dig? I could respect that. So anyway, like I said, I watched him a few times. I haven't seen nothing where he's off, like he's not a rider. Feel me? Like, so anyway, he's gonna keep it real. He's gonna tell you how Africans see us. Now, keep in mind, he's from the islands, and he's gonna tell you from his experience, his Pan-Africanism activism in Africa. He's gonna tell you how Africans see foundational Black Americans. Listen, and Dr. Miles right there. Listen to this guy.
I've come to realize that when people say African, they mean the continentalists. They mean anyone who's on the continent, to the exclusion of Black people who happen not to be located on the continent. Facts. And that's the high.
Here she go. Facts. Yeah, family. Whoever her guest is, she just agrees with everything they say. That's what she normally does. Facts. That's all she says. You'll see. But you heard him. He said when you say the word African, he said the continental Africans, when they say African, they only refer to themselves. They don't see Black people in America as African like themselves. Okay. Now he's a guy who's on the continent. He's a Pan-African. He's trying to work with them. He's telling you his firsthand experience, and he's still a Pan-Africanist. He's not reformed. He's not, bitter. He ain't leave. He ain't sour taste. He's still a Pan-Africanist. He's still working with them, but he's being honest. Like when you say African, they see themselves as African. They do not see foundational Black Americans as African. We're not. Only an Pan-Afro would pretend like that. So one more time, I want y'all to hear the language.
I've come to realize that when people say African, they mean the continental.
I come to realize in his Pan-Africanism work, his activisms, he came to realize when they say Africa, because obviously he thinks they're talking about him. And other people he would think will be in the African of the diaspora. He think diaspora people will be in that African, bubble, that language. Nope. He said, I came to realize, check it, this is called experience.
I've come to realize that when people say African, they mean the continentalists. They mean anyone who's on the continent, to the exclusion of Black people who happen not to be located on
to the exclusion to Black people who happen to be not located where?
Continent, to the exclusion of Black people who happen not to be located on the continent.
Facts.
And, you know, that's the hijacking of the term Pan-Africanism.
There you go. So family, this information I'm cooking her on is on her own channel. This ain't something I pulled up. This ain't something on the internet, clickbait. No, this is her videos. I'm cooking her with her videos on her channel. This is what happens when you're not 100. When you're all over the place, you got agendas. You can't see that you're a walking contradiction. You can't see that. All right. All right. So let's move on from there. Okay. And let's go right. Let's go right here. Hold on. You got to let a lion lie. Okay, watch this. So now, I want y'all to see this one. This one you got to see. Because this happened right before me and Unc debated about Africa's role in the slave trade. So now this happened 5 months before me and Unc. So I'm saying, family, these guys got no integrity at all. Listen, when I seen this later after we had our little debate, and I just couldn't believe he was present when Dr. Maat said this. Please, family.
But I have the writings. I have the Portuguese writings that'll tell you that, you know, that these Africans, a lot of these different ethnicities were at war, and that they had POWs, and that they would sell their POWs to European people, right? Portuguese.
Now, family, listen to the language. She said Africans, and the other guy, he said, I come to realize when people say African, so everybody's using the word African. She said it. Her co-host said it. Everybody's an African. But family, when we say African sold us, they'll say we can't say African. We got to be very specific. We gotta break it down to the lowest common denominator. You dig? We gotta do root 3 point. You know what I mean? We gotta do root. We gotta do pi. We gotta do PEMDAS. We gotta do these extra mathematical equations to be specific of who was involved in selling us, but they just can willy-nilly say African and don't be specific. So I'm gonna point that contradiction out later. But the other guy, he said, when you think of Africans, everybody that's everybody to the exclusion of people who are not on the continent. And look at her first word. She's gonna say Africans were practicing slavery. But when we say it, we can't do it. Listen.
I have the writings. I have the Portuguese writings that'll tell you that, you know, that these Africans, a lot of these
Africans, keep in mind, because when another person said on her show, when they called in and said Africans sold us, she said we can't say Africans. She just said it. Dr. Maat, man, you're losing all credibility, man. You might as well throw that degree in the garbage.
But I have the writings. I have the Portuguese writings that'll tell you that, you know, that these Africans, a lot of these different ethnicities were at war, and that they had POWs, and that they would sell their POWs to European people, right? Portuguese, Dutch, Swedes, Danish, British, you know, and that's so you don't have any. I agree with that, right?
I agree with that, right? So now he was right there present. He had no objection. He agreed. He acquiesced. We debated 5 months. I asked Unc about that because Unc said, you know, he used familiar language to let me know that he don't believe that what she said. So he said, yeah, we were stolen. I'm like, who stole us? The Dutch, the Portuguese. I'm like, yo, you don't know about the slave raids and the African slave trade? Oh, nah, you trying to say we sold ourselves? Yeah, that's what history says, what Dr. Maat said. Oh, nah, that's white supremacy talk. So I cooked them. I showed a source. I'm gonna play later. I got it. I'm gonna play it. And I cooked them. Then he calls me on the phone and say, Bias, you know I ain't mean that. You know, I meant to say something else. The words didn't come out right. So I'm like, you say what you said, my boy. Okay. So let's move past that. So she had no problem admitting that Africans sold us, right? Now watch, she's gonna back up from that claim. She's gonna back up from that claim. Watch this. Yeah, why did I click off on my other tabs? That's interesting. All right. Let me get them back. Let me get my tabs back. I clicked off a few tabs by mistake. Couldn't remember doing it. Give me a second just to find it. So now I'm going to have the case in points. Matter of fact, while I look for that, let's go with a case in point of Africans denying their role in the transatlantic slave trade.
Them to slavery as opposed to seeing it as, first of all, why do you believe the white man's history so much? I went to boarding school in Cameroon, and I learned that one of the tactics that they used to get Africans in the slaves in the ships, they stole them literally. They would what's the word? They would come to the chief and say, hey, we just need a couple of men to work for this X amount of time, and those men would never come back. I mean, there were so many different sneaky ways that they got people away. Do you think Africans were proud to?
Okay, so
I would have sold everybody.
I would like to say something as well.
Wait, hold on. Go ahead, Rashad.
You have the women of Dahomey. They were doing it. I think it was 75% of slaves that came through the transatlantic slave trade came straight through there. Matter of fact, they had, if I remember right, they had a tree. They used to have their slaves walk around called the tree of forgetfulness because they didn't want, when them slaves died over there, their spirits to come back and haunt them. They were brutal with their tactics, cutting jaws off, killing.
What are your sources? Where is this?
She said, where's your sources that Africans sold us? This is crazy.
Zora Neale Hurston is one of the greatest.
I have never heard that in my life.
Okay.
The effort of Black Americans, that it was because of maybe their sacrifice that Africans were able to come to America, and I disagree with that. I disagree because Black Americans, just as my brother here, Ovie, stated, they did not participate in my effort to come into America. The same experience they had, we have same experience. They were our brothers. They were kidnapped. We did not sell our brothers. We never sold them to anybody. We were kidnapped, and they were lied to. Their descendants were lied to that they were sold. No.
Number two, none of us were there during the days of slavery. So whatever story they had taught us, we don't sold it, that your brother sold you. I wasn't there, you weren't there, so we don't even know what truth there is. And even if it's the truth, how many years ago have they been? Some of you have forgiven the white man, but you refuse to forgive your so-called brothers who sold you to the white man. I don't believe that story.
When did we forgive the white man?
We did not sell our lives to.
Taught us, we don't sold it, that your brother sold you. I wasn't there, you weren't there, so we don't even know what truth there is. And even if it's the truth, how many years ago have they been? Some of you have forgiven the white man, but you refuse to forgive your so-called brothers who sold you to the white man. I don't believe that story because I wasn't there. Number two,
wow,
none of us were there during the days of slavery. So
she don't believe the story because she wasn't there. Y'all heard it. Y'all heard it for yourself. Now, disrespectful tethers, man. I don't believe the story because I wasn't there. Not that it's false, not that it's debatable. She don't want to believe it because she wasn't there. Okay, hold on. And some of y'all think that we can unite with these folks. Okay. No, no. I'm gonna pass. That's just me. I'm passing. Okay, I'm just trying to find the other video thingy. We can get started. I just had it, then I lost it. Okay, here we go. All right, okay. So you heard those three Africans. They said slavery never happened. And we were lied to. They were not there, so it doesn't count. They got to be there for it to count. They weren't there, so it doesn't count. All right. So now let's listen to this fool. So basically, I'm cooking their whole crew. So Dr. Maat and her whole pseudo crew. So now here's a guy who calls himself the proper perspective. This is Teddy Ruxpin. This is Dr. Ruxpin boy. Especially when now notice how aggressive. Like, I'm talking calm, regular. Notice how aggressive this guy's with me. You bring it up. Understand what everybody's trying to do that gets or identifying. Okay.
As long as you're just sticking to that label, participated in the people who have been here because of the transatlantic slave trade, who were kidnapped from Africa, put in the chains, put on the
family. When they say we were kidnapped from Africa, took from Africa, stolen from Africa, you have to always ask them, who took us, who stole us, who kidnapped us? You have to always ask them that. They're going to stutter, they're going to grin, they're going to chuckle, and then they're going to lie. Always do never assume that they're going to say what you would say and what the research say. They're going to always chuckle, grin, get angry, and then flat out lie. Listen.
The boats and brought over here, yes.
Okay, can I ask you that? Who kidnapped them from Africa?
Say it again. Who kidnapped Africans from Africa?
Yeah.
There were some continental Africans in a few kingdoms that participated in the kidnapping process, but everybody was thrown onto boats built by white people. Everybody was shipped overseas, boats manned by Europeans, sold on auction blocks, 99% of which were managed by the white people that came over here.
Yeah, so I agree with some things you said, brother. Are you familiar with the panelists on the video I was sharing? Are you familiar with some of them?
I'm familiar with some of them. I didn't catch your live like from the beginning. When I tuned in, I think I saw Dr. Maat on screen. So I'm a little bit familiar with her.
Okay, yeah. So she's gonna come on sometime this next week on the panel, and we're gonna talk about some things that she's, some things she believes in and don't believe in. But I only said that to say this, brother. So, family, you heard what I said? I said she's gonna come on because I showed y'all the email. She promised me that she was gonna come on my channel. She reneged. She lied. I showed y'all guys. She reaffirmed, promised, guaranteed she'll come on. So I'm telling this clown that, yeah, she's gonna come on and talk to me about this right here. And she reneged, family. She never came on. She's a dirtbag, man. And as you see, she's very deceitful. She got no problem lying, deceiving, spreading malinformation. No problem at all. There is no credible research in this world that would remotely suggest that Europeans kidnapped a significant amount of Africans, brother. The research says this. The research says in the early 1400s,
Europeans tried to do that, and they were utterly unsuccessful. They said diseases, native diseases themselves killed them off. Africans themselves killed them off. They didn't have the military power they have today or later, even when they did the Berlin Conference in 1894. They didn't have the military power to go to Africa and do anything significant. So they came back 200 years later with their checkbook. And it was like, hey, man, how much? So you have something called slave raiders and slave raids. So you got Queen Nzinga from Mali and Ghana. So Africans at a 90% rate largely were the kidnappers of Africans. And so everything you said after that was true. But the way we got on that ship was through the hands of Africans.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I asked you who kidnapped. Because I know some people like to believe that white folks were successful in snatching up Africans, and they were utterly. And you can do any source. I can read your sources. You can pull them up. I don't care where you go, brother. Anywhere. No credible historian can say the opposite.
Okay, hold on. Now, hold on.
Yeah.
Just, you said in the beginning this was going to be a conversation and a discussion, not a debate.
Yeah, not a debate. No,
I'm not going to.
give you a here.
Okay, and I'm saying.
Yeah, it wasn't big.
Right.
I'm
So,
gonna give you
no,
like
what
a
I'm
historian perspective. Like everywhere you research, is nobody's going to say
no.
There was African white Europeans who kidnapped and they were successful. They're going to say they flopped, failed, and they had to come back and purchase from Africans. So that wasn't the big. I'll just give you the historical analysis on that.
Well, again, we can agree to disagree.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because I understand your positioning, and you said there's no credible research. Now, one of the reasons I say I don't do debates is because I'm very familiar with how people play with debates. Now, we can say I disagree with the research. Okay. But when you say there's no credible when you say there's no credible research, that's always going to be up for interpretation. What you determine as credible, what I determine as credible, is going to always be at odds, or may always be at odds. Number two, when you say kidnap, when I say kidnap, unless we agree to exactly what that means, again, it's all up in the ether and it could go either way. Now, I don't necessarily mind if you wanted to give me a historian that I could research who says there's no credible evidence, and I had the time to go and look at that research and see why they're saying it, then I might come back and say, something, I agree with you. But I'm not going to just say, yeah, you're right, there's no credible research, when I've researched it. I have read books from various historians.
Family, the argument wasn't credible research, even though there's no credible research. The argument was you don't have a credible researcher. You don't have credible research that said slave raiding, kidnapping was largely Europeans. You're not going to find that from any credible researcher or even credible research. That's just a fact. Dr. Maat, you heard it earlier. This is common knowledge. But okay.
And I know that I have read about Europeans who did actively participate in the quote unquote kidnapping.
I'm sure you bought it from a Pan-Africanist self-published author. I'm sure you did.
And so that's why I tried to say it the way I said it. There were some Africans who participated in the kidnapping, but there also were Europeans who participated in the kidnapping. It depends on which geographical location you're talking about. Africans that were quote unquote kidnapped from, Africans that were kidnapped from the coast, it was about, now I may have my numbers wrong, but there was equal participation. There were whites, there were Europeans, and there were Africans that were actively kidnapping Africans from the coastal areas. If you go further, once you get further in, so for instance, let's say, for example, we're talking about Ghana. Any Africans that got kidnapped in the area of Kumasi, there wasn't that much white presence. They couldn't make it that far inland. So they relied on the Africans in the Kumasi area that would do the dirty work and then bring them down towards the coastal areas of Cape Coast. But in the Cape Coast area, there were Europeans who were taking participatory roles in the kidnapping.
The family, you see that foot shuffling, deceptive malinformation tactic? I clearly gave a lopsided balance as far as roles. I never said white folks never tried. I said they tried and failed. I said they were unsuccessful. I said it was like 90% of the kidnapping was done by Africans. That's what I said. So that means 10% was done by somebody non-African. He's acting like it was 50-50 or 60-40, 45, 60, 45, 55. That's what he's pretending. And family, this is how far they'll go to lie. Now, he'll say he's foundational Black American and he's a Pan-African. And I'm telling you, when people, I got to ask George Macon, like, what's, because I got to ask every FBA Pan-African about the slave trade. Because it seemed like most of them take the position that white people did it themselves. White people were equally involved, or they did it themselves. You see the thumbnail? This African is like, yo, like he's dumbfounded. They don't know this is happening behind them. Like the white folks just slid up in there like ninjas and start just kidnapping, stealing people unbeknownst to Africans. So this African like is dumbfounded, like, hey, where all the niggas go? 12 to 15 million of us were sold, and he wants to believe out of 12 million, white folks stole 6 million. Africans stole the other 6 million or something close. This is ridiculous, man.
So I'll just say that. But again, I say how we characterize our terms has a lot to do with whether or not we say we agree or disagree, or you're right and I'm wrong and I'm wrong and I'm right and you're wrong. But go ahead.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so we can move on past that, but I just want to say what I said in general was, but I would love for you in the chat, you could list those scholars or books that said the opposite. But what I was saying was not just a scholar.
I would love for you to do the same thing.
Yeah, sure. Sure, no problem. I got videos where I don't mind doing it again. But what I was saying was any random. So I was saying like it's not about like choosing a scholar you like, right? As confirmation bias or that I like. I was saying any just random research, any random internet research, there will be nothing remotely close to that. That's what I was saying. Okay, but we can move on for that because I see what you said. You said what you said. We're not debating.
So there you go. All right, family. Now watch. So we had the African tethers deny it. We had this guy, proper perspective, deny or minimize Africa's role in the transatlantic slavery. All right, now listen to Tether New.
Slave raiders, who were they? According to your research, who were the slave raiders?
Primarily the European. Primarily the European.
Family slave raiders, that's the proper terminology of what they call stolen, took, kidnap. It's called slave raiders. Okay, see, he just said it. He said primarily the Europeans were doing the slave raiding, the kidnapping. And he says he's a Pan-African family. This is standard doctrine. That's why I got to ask our brother George Macon, like, you're Pan-African, or like, let me know, like, because it makes you wonder. Because it's like all of them take this position. It's like all of them sell their soul. They sell their soul to the people who sold us.
Where'd you read that? Where slave raiders?
Primarily the European.
Where?
Primarily the European.
Where'd you read that from? Because I read something different.
National Archives and different sources.
Yeah, you got it. Okay, so what about Queen Nzinga? Was she a slave raider?
She participated in the slave trade.
Was she a slave raider? I know she sold slaves, but was she also a slave raider? Did she capture? Did her Angola, on behalf of her, capture blacks and then trade them? Okay, that's what a slave raider is. Okay, cool. Yeah. And wasn't there other surrounding African countries in Central Africa that I could bring up for you, also slave raiders?
Yeah.
Okay, now that was around like 1600, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what year were there European slave raiders?
I mean, the whole entire transatlantic slave trade.
Okay, bro, I need you to find that for me. I need you to find that for me, because I'm gonna tell you what I found. I could easily show my screen. I did it yesterday. That's not true. So,
hey, you see how calm and relaxed I am? Am I muting anybody? So the narrative people use to not come over here and get cooked, get flamed is ridiculous. Oh, you meet people. Oh, stop lying. I meet people who don't have no respect for the channel.
European, matter of fact, let me share my screen. I'm gonna do a quick Wikipedia on your ass. Something quick. You can't do nothing. You can't do Wikipedia. You can't do Google. You can't do nothing to show that. Okay, so let me do a quick Wikipedia on you. All right, I'm gonna share my screen as I type it in there. So dudes just be making stuff up and they act like they're ready for me. All right, cool. So we're picking up when we left off at. Watch this. Trans. That's all I'm gonna type. I'm not gonna rephrase it. Okay. Cool. And I'm gonna go to Wikipedia, a quick one. Cool. And I'm gonna go to Wikipedia, a quick one. Because they're actually gonna bring up the slave raiders. See, you see one. Cool. And I'm gonna go.
I was trying to see if it was on the screen already. That's why I kept pausing it. Let me see. European ship sail from I'm trying to see if it was already
a quick one.
No, I did see it. Okay, so I was right.
So they're actually going to bring up the slave raiders. See, you see, it's already clicked. I already clicked it. I told you, man. Here we are. Okay, here we are. Okay. So the Atlantic slave trade, or the transatlantic slave trade, involved the transportation by slave traders of African people to the Americas. They don't say nothing about slave raiders right here, bro. So in the first few words about it, representing it, summarizing it, it says nothing about raiders. It says slave traders. European slave ships regularly use the triangular slave trade, not raid, route, and it's not called the triangular slave raid, by the way. Okay, because you said something different. You said that most of these folk got into the airspace through the raids. I got you. I clipped you. Okay, it says Europeans, and stop me when I'm wrong, when Wikipedia is wrong. Europeans established a coastal slave trade, not raid, in the 15th century, and trade, not raid, the Americas began in the 16th century, lasting through the 19th century. The vast majority of those who were transported in the transatlantic slave raid, no, read it again. Transported in the transatlantic slave trade were from Central Africa and West Africa, and had been sold by West African, does it say slave traders or slave raiders?
Go ahead, I'm listening to you.
Okay, that's what I thought. Now watch this. And been sold by the West African slave traders to the European slave traders, okay? Traders, they did a deal. While others had been captured directly by the slave traders in coastal raids. Let's talk about that. European slave traders gathered and imprisoned the enslaved at forts on the African coast and then brought them to America. Some Portuguese, let me expand my screen. Some Portuguese and Europeans participated in slave raids, some. As the National Museum Liverpool explains, European traders captured some Africans in raids along the coast, but most of them, is most many or the minority? Is most the majority or the minority?
Most is the majority.
Right, it's a mathematical equation. Okay, expression. So most of them from local African or African European dealers. European slave traders, African or African European dealers. European slave traders generally did not, European slave traders generally did not participate in slave raids. Brother? Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a source that could back up my claim that I could put give me a second. I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to put blame on the Africans for the slave trade, which is kind of crazy.
A family, they all say that. Unc is next. Okay, I cooked him too. He said, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to put blame. I'm trying to put blame? Bro, this is a published article on, this is public information, published and public information on Wikipedia. What do you mean what I'm trying to do? We're reading it. That's called accountability, bro. He said, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to put blame. Family, that's how they receive it. When you hold Africa accountable, it could be slave raids, it could be homeland failures, family. They take all that as an insult. Family, I'm reading from Wikipedia, and he took the information as an insult. He took it, he was insulted by me reading this. He thought I was personally attacking Africa. So, family, you see why when we explain their homeland, their wretched condition, and we tell truths about them, and then they take it as we're roasting and being disrespectful and xenophobic and divisive? That's because any truth that doesn't put Africa in a fantasy heavenly limelight is seen as disrespect and attack. Okay, you can't tell any truth about Africa where Africa is not seen as the motherland, some holy motherland, and they don't charge you with being divisive, xenophobic, hateful, jealous. This is what they all do. We ask them, what did I say that's hateful towards Africa? Oh, you said many things. Can I get one? And they can't name one. Dr. Russman couldn't name one thing that we said about Africans. Oh, there's plenty of things FBA say. Can you tell me one thing? There's so many. Can you tell me one? There's millions of things. Can you tell me one, Dr. Ruxman? There's so many. Yeah, so there's so many. You can just grab one out the. I just can't, man. I just can't grab it. So many. Oh my God.
I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to put blame on the Africans for the slave trade, which is kind of crazy. Now let me read from my source. In the 15th century, Portugal became the first European nation to take significant part in African slave trade. The Portuguese primarily acquired slaves for labor on Atlantic African island plantation and later for plantations in Brazil and the Caribbean. Though they also sent small number of to Europe, initially Portuguese explorers attempted to acquire African labor through direct raids.
Attempted, right? Go ahead.
Along the coast, but they found that these attacks were costly and often ineffective against Western Central.
Stop. So they attempted and they realized it was cost efficient and it was ineffective. Go ahead. Your source cooked you. Go ahead, finish.
Yeah, so can I just finish reading?
Yes, but it just cooked you though.
Were costly and often ineffective against Western Central African military strategy. For example, in 1444, Portuguese marauders arrived in Senegal ready to assault and capture Africans using armor, swords, and deep-sea vessels. But the Portuguese discovered that the Senegalese outmaneuvered their ships using light, shallow water vessels, better suited to instruction for the Senegalese coast. In addition, the Senegalese fought with poison arrows that slipped through their armors and decimated the Portuguese soldier. Subsequently,
wait, stop. What the yo, dude? You're reading what validates what I read, bro.
I didn't even finish.
Okay, go ahead. Continue. God damn.
Subsequently, Portuguese raiders generally abandoned direct combat and established commercial relations.
Commercial, bro. That means selling. Commercial means buying and selling. Stop right there. We don't need no more. So that means they abandoned that mission ASAP. And they came back in the 16th century and said, yo, how much? They said,
Yeah,
how much?
you're talking about prisoners of war.
Okay, bro, it don't matter what you call them. It was a buy and sell transaction, bro. It was a bartering system. It was not some slave trade that you just thought your source corroborate what I'm reading. So I don't got to read no more, dude. Listen, I keep telling you guys,
Okay, so I'm gonna read the same source for Unc. It's ridiculous, family. I don't gotta read a deep nothing. Okay. Same thing, family. This is crazy. Once an FBA becomes a Pan-African in the playbook, the first thing they must do is deny Africa's large role in the African slave trade, and they either gotta outright deny their role totally, or they'll minimize it and act like it's even, or white folks did most of the slave raiding. Family, if white folks kidnapped us, there's no point to buy us, right? When you steal something, why would you go back and buy it? So if white folks stole us, if they were primarily responsible for selling us, if white folks was primarily responsible for stealing us, where's the trade? There's no need to make a purchase. Like, they don't even understand what they're saying.
Yeah. Trade.
You're familiar with the transatlantic slave trade, right?
I certainly am.
Okay. I heard you use the term. Do you still go by this term? Do you still go by that we were kidnapped?
Yeah, because you got to get kidnapped first to get enslaved.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just asking. Okay, so now when we were kidnapped, who did the kidnapping?
Dutch, the Portuguese.
Family, right away, they just named white people. The Dutch, the Portuguese. Every last one of them said white people. Africans are 90%, and probably more than that, probably 95% responsible for the slave trades and the slave raids, the stealing, the kidnapping, the taking. They're probably 95, 93% responsible for that. But when you ask a Pan-African, you'll see they all will say the Dutch, the white man, the European. And I'm gonna start. I guess I gotta keep asking. This is how you see where FBAs are. You gotta ask them this right here, because there's two things you ask an FBA who claims to be Pan-African. If you could tell if they own code or not, ask them about this, and ask about Marcus Garvey. They're not gonna be able to hold it in. if they're playing double agent, they'll fold. They're gonna fold on one of the two. They won't concede to both. Mm-mm. Okay, kidnapping. Yeah, I'm just asking. Okay, so now when we were kidnapped, who did the kidnapping?
Dutch, the Portuguese.
Okay, hold on. Stop right here. So, brother, you said you're not into pseudo information, right?
No. So you saying that the Portuguese?
Okay. All right. Now I'm gonna share my screen this time. Are you familiar with slave raids in Africa?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know how unsuccessful the Dutch and Europeans were in the 1400s when they went over there and tried that? They died from diseases and they got killed off by African resilience. Okay, so you heard that, family. I said they died from diseases and they got killed off from African resilience. That means African resistance. That means Africans resisted and slaughtered them. He's going to deny that. And then when we spoke on Saturday TV months later, family, he's going to act like this never happened. And he's going to read an article that says what I said and then pretend like I didn't say what I said and I said what he said. I know that sounds a little confusing, but I just said the Europeans failed at trying to kidnap us because of diseases and African resilience, right? Resistance. He's going to say, where that's at? I don't see that. He's going to challenge it. And I just moved on. I didn't want to waste time. Moved on. Months later, when we faced off at Sonetta, he's going to read a source that go more into depth what I just said and act like that was his position all the time. And I was arguing against it.
this is a deceitful, and that's why I say I don't know if these guys are under the influence of some type of narcotic. I don't know, but it seems like it. Because my jaw dropped when I seen him read the article on Sunday TV. I was like, wait a minute, dude, you didn't believe that when I said it. Look, so y'all heard me say it. I'm gonna say it again. Listen to his reaction. You die from diseases, and Europeans were in the 1400s when they went over there and tried that. They died from diseases, and they got killed off by African resilience. Do you know that majority of all the kidnapping were done by Africans?
I mean, come on, bro. Like
when I say that, I mean like 90 to 93%, 95%. Come on, man. Because he believes white folks had a larger role than what I'm expressing. So that's false? Okay, let me pull it up.
I'm saying the way yes. You know what you talked about.
Okay, you got it.
Hold on. Okay. Hold on now.
Oh my, it's gonna be easy one right here.
What you're doing is you fucking it all up.
Okay, sure. So I'm gonna read it and you correct me.
Hold on. I'm gonna let you fuck it all up, then I'm gonna get you and beat you all up. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead. And present the false narrative. Go.
Okay, got you.
Go. I'm muting out.
Let me share my screen. Yeah, cool.
Screen.
R.I.P. to Unc. Okay. Now he's gonna change up everything I just asked and watch.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm gonna force you to deal with chronology. See, you can't play me with the crazy Christian game. That's the Christian game right there. Well, you know the Africans enslaved themselves. You know, you're a Christian talking about.
You heard him? Ain't that what Revenue just said? Oh, you're trying to blame Africa? You see what he just said? You know Africans enslaved themselves. So he understood exactly what I was arguing. Him and Revenue. I was arguing that Africans stole us and sold us. He tried to switch that up on Sinetta and pretend that he was challenging something else. He was challenging what he just said. Oh, you know Africans enslaved themselves. Yeah.
A slave trader don't got nothing to do with the way you thinking. But go ahead.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, go for it. I'm the right dude. And I got 2 more minutes. So you got 2 minutes.
Okay, got it. Okay, let me cook this guy real fast. Let me RIP this dude.
Crazy.
Man.
Crazy. Now the Africans enslaved themselves. How?
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Wasn't even called Africans. Nigga, they was just give me the tribe and
told you, family. I told you. They can look, he said Africans enslaved themselves. So he understood exactly the argument I was making. He's not confused. And now he's saying how, give him the tribe. So now we could no longer say Africans. You heard Dr. Maat say Africans sold us. You heard the other her co-host say when Africans think of Africans, they think of themselves as continental. They don't think of Black Americans or anybody from the diaspora. So they can use African as a blanket label to cover 54 countries, right? Or any one nation. But we can't do it. When we say Africans, we got to always qualify who we're talking about. But they could use it willy-nilly. Don't worry, we're gonna catch them all in their contradictions, hypocrisy, and double standards. After him, Dr. Maat.
The clans, nigga, don't play with me.
And Zinga, Queen of Zinga. She went part of slave raids?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Absolutely. So don't ever ask me another question like that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you have that for a moment. Then I'm gonna beat you up on it. Definitely got an answer for it.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead. What you doing? You said that. You're supposed to have that already, bro.
Got you.
Ain't nothing you can read that's gonna say what you saying, yo. Go read that. We want to see it on the screen, nigga. Put it up there.
I will.
Yeah. What you taking too long?
Relax. I'm gonna get it right.
Okay? Don't get it right. Don't give me a source to say that. Don't play.
Okay, sure. I got you.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, we do that. We can
back up with it.
You can ask for it. Okay. Same. Great.
European colonialism.
Okay. We know about that. We know about that. Okay.
Right, go.
Family, did this source look familiar? It's the same source I beat up Revenue Kwame with. I don't gotta go deep. I don't gotta go to Harvard or some prestigious college to look, I disrespect them. I go to a generic website. But do you see it? Do you see it?
Yeah, read it.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to the most simplest one. So wait 1 second. I'm gonna get your spaghetti.
No, just read
Okay.
that. Enslaved
So
trade.
the African slave trade or transatlantic slave trade involved the transportation by slave traders of enslaved African people to the Americas. European slave ships regularly used the triangular slave trade route and its middle passage. Europeans established a coastal slave trade in the 15th century, and trade to the Americas began in the 16th century, lasting through the 19th century. The vast majority. Wait, no.
We
I'm gonna
gotta
keep.
stop right
No,
there.
no, no.
Pause right
I'm
there.
gonna read. No, I'm gonna
Why do
leave
you
it
want
up
to keep
here.
reading? Why?
No, because I'm gonna leave it up here. You read back.
Okay,
Because you don't want to read right here. The
now I
vast
want to keep
majority.
going, but I want to be chronologically
Cool.
correct in
Okay.
what we're
No,
saying. Go ahead.
I'm gonna leave it up.
Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna leave it up.
Go
The
ahead.
vast majority of those who were transported into the transatlantic slave trade were from Central Africa and West Africa and had been sold by West African slave traders to European slave traders, while others had been captured directly by the slave traders in coastal raids. European slave traders gathered and imprisoned and enslaved at forts on the African coast and then brought them to the Western Hemisphere. Some Portuguese and Europeans participated in slave raids. As the National Museum of Liverpool explains, European traders captured some Africans in raids along the coast, but most of them from local African or European dealers. European slave traders generally did not participate in slave raids. You're dead. Go, you're dead.
So here we go.
All right. So now he's going to read over this article again. So he's going to filibuster. I'm just going to speed it up. But you still can hear him, but I want to speed it up for the sake of time. It's already 1:44 a.m. Okay, so. But he's just going to read the same article. So it's not like new words are going to magically, appear. He's going to cover what I covered because he can't believe it said what it said.
So it says the Atlantic slave trade and transatlantic slave trade involve the transportation of slave traders and enslaved African people to the Americas. European slave ships regularly used the triangle trade route and its middle passage. So if we stop right there, and the context is it was the Europeans that established these trade routes first, right? So there is no Africans prior to colonialism planning a triangular trade route and building ships. And so these people are at the source of dysfunction in that particular region. There's no argument over that. So now we got the chronology proper. No need to take slaves to the coast or raid anybody and send them across the world without the European involvement. So they are at the source of this. Okay, it's business for them. The next sentence says Europeans established. So European, not Africans, but Europeans established a coastal slave trade in the 15th century, and trade to the Americas began in the 16th century, lasting through the 19th century. So Europeans did this, and based off Europeans doing this, they established the slave trade. Matter of fact, what most people don't know is that these particular Europeans, right, they put the whole African trade in dysfunction. I'm gonna say this again, meaning there was nothing else valuable but slaves. They decentralized trade. That means the trade was based on one thing after they came in. It wasn't based off of fruits and vegetables and wood and all kind of bartering systems. It wasn't based off that. They made it based off of slavery. So prior to Europeans coming to Africa, they had a bustling trade in all types of commodities, including slaves. So now you would have to research what an African slave trade looked like, what those slave markets look like. It was part of the overall market system. Okay? Don't be a Christian and think, oh, they was, no, it's totally different. Two separate things. Now, let's read on to the next thing. It says the vast majority of those who were transported in the transatlantic slave trade were from Central and West Africa. So there you go. It says and had been sold by West African slave traders to European slave traders. So why would they do that? Because they was already fighting each other like powers do, right? And they already had a system in play. Okay, so now at this point, the only thing that became valuable was the slaves. So they sold them to the Europeans at much higher numbers, right? Why? Because they're in a state of dysfunction at this point. Europeans are coming in to take their land and take their kingdoms, misuse them, pitting each other against each other. So that's all part of the game. We're not going to run away from that. And we're not going to run from the fact that they did sell Europeans as slaves. Why would they sell Europeans as slaves? Because their economies had fell. Why did their economies fall? Because the only thing you could trade that was valuable was goddamn Africans. Because Europeans, not Africans, decentralized the trade in Africa. So that's the only game left in town. So for their survivability, food, clothing, shelter, the main trade was in bodies. That's just what it was. Reading? That's just what it is. So let's get to the last part. Hold on. So it says the vast majority.
So he was doing a bunch of plebiscite babbling. That's why I kept encouraging him to read. I said, bro, you want to keep reading? You want to keep reading? He just talking.
That's what it is. It's survivability. Food, clothing, shelter. The main trade was in bodies. That's just what it was. Reading? That's just what it is. So let's get to the last part. Hold on. So it says the vast majority of those who were transported The transatlantic slave trade were from Central West Africa, right? It say, and have been sold by West African slave traders, right, to European slave trades. I agree. It say, while others have been captured directly by the slave traders on the coastal raids, European slave raiders gathered and imprisoned the enslaved at forts on the African coast and then brought them to the Western Hemisphere. It says some Portuguese and Europeans participated in slave raids, okay? It says, as the National Museum of Liverpool explains, it says European traders captured some Africans in raids along the coast. They say, but brought most of them from local African and African European dealers. See, African European dealers. But
they were African. Look ahead.
No, it's like man, African or African European dealers. So what's the African European dealer thing, yo?
Read the next sentence and you'll get it.
Okay. It's a European slave traders generally did not participate in slave raids. We know why. You explained it. Because the niggas couldn't handle the heat and the malaria and all that. It say this was primarily because life.
Family, he just read smooth past that. Let me slow it down now. He just read smooth past Europeans were not generally involved in the slave raids.
Expectancy to participate in slave. Okay. It say European slave traders generally did not participate in slave raids. We know why. You explained it. Because the niggas.
Yeah, but that was the entire debate, though, my guy. They generally didn't participate in the slave trade. One more time, family. We're not retarded. He is.
Participate in slave raids. Okay? It say European slave traders generally did not participate in slave raids. We know why. You explained it. Because the niggas couldn't handle the heat and the malaria and all that. It say this was primarily because life expectancy of Europeans in sub-Saharan Africa was less than 1 year. Why you move it?
So you can read the rest.
What? Wait. Because due to the endemic. Yeah, malaria. Okay. You messed me up. Sub-Saharan malaria.
Oh, right here. You right here.
Okay.
You was right there.
Coastal raids found that slave raiding was too costly and often ineffective. I said ineffective and opted for commercial relations.
What does that mean to you, ineffective, my guy?
Yeah,
okay.
yo. Hey, so how does that make your point?
Okay.
You explaining the intricacies of it. That's okay.
Okay. So it made my point.
Hold on. That is a summarization of it. I'm giving people the details that can be backed by scholarly sources, bro. So there's a reason why they gave you why. They couldn't go in there because they was catching malaria. So now you rely on
Africans were defeating them. They would lose it. They was taking L's because the European army was not strong at that time.
No, that's not what that said. Hold on, where that's at? That's right here.
So fam, you see that? I said Africans were defeating him. He said, nah, that's not what that said. Where's it at? I can't see it. My fault. So he was challenging that, family. Now, 5 months later, he went on Sonetta TV, and I'm going to show you what he read. So he's more than an idiot, chat. He's very deceptive. He's very deceptive. Okay? He's very deceptive. He came on Sonetta 5 months later, and I'm going to show you that part. He's going to read a source that agreed what I just said just now, that Africans were defeating him. And he's going to read that source like that was his position the whole time. So one more time, family, I'm going to say, and Africans were, because he tried to say, he was trying to imply white folks couldn't get it done because of diseases. I'm like, nah, Africans were kicking their ass too. It wasn't just diseases. Nah, where that's at? I can't see that. Where is it at?
Now you rely on
and Africans were defeating them. They would lose it. They was taking L's because the European army was not strong at that time.
No, that's not what that said. Hold on, where that's at? That's right here. My fault. You just adding some context to it.
No, that's part of research. So you don't know.
Okay, that's part of research. Yeah.
So you don't know.
Okay, so then he comes back on Sonetta and does this right here. I mean, this is so disingenuous.
Time and chronology. I said it in that most source besides Wikipedia, Greek through all, and then come to a dies. Let's come. You guys, man. Local African response to early slave trade in Upper Guinea, 16th to the 17th century. So he's actually talking about a response to colonialism. So let's read the abstract. Let's make it a little bit bigger for y'all. This is something y'all don't know about. If you actually pull a Wikipedia source on the raiding, you'll find out that the daggone Portuguese was actually unsuccessful in raiding because the Africans had Marines.
Army, family.
You can't make this up. He's now repeating my argument that he disagreed with. Europeans, he said Europeans was unsuccessful. We're unsuccessful because of diseases only. I said, nah, Africans were kicking their ass. Nah, what that say? I didn't read that. You had in context. Now he's saying, oh, Africans defeated them because they had Marines. Listen to this guy. Family, this is a dusty, musty, deceptive dude, man. You can't believe how disgusting they are. They have no integrity.
They had war canoes. So when the Portuguese ships would go downstream, the Africans would come up with about 30, 40 war canoes. And they was loaded with weaponry. They had poison arrows, bows and arrows, and some had iron tips on it. They tore their ass up.
Wait a minute. So now you agree with me? You said when I said that, no, what I said, I didn't read that. What I said. Family, this is a disgusting, dusty, musty guy. None of them have any integrity, man. None of them. None of them, family. That's disgusting. Okay, so let me do this. Now let's cook Dr. Maat and get out of here. So I got at the retarded guy, the lead paint guy, Sean. I cooked proper perspective. I beat up revenue, Tethernew. I just killed Unc, and now Dr. Mayat's gonna get it on Africa's role in the slave trade. All of them got defeated. All right. So Chief Karen, I hope you're taking note how to do it. Cause this guy been trying for 1,000 years to take down Unc and them. You can't do it. Like, dude, just tap me in the shoulder and say you need my help, man. And I got you. All right. Family, no integrity. All right. So now let's deal with Dr. Mayat, and then we're gonna get out of here, family. Thank you guys for pulling up. I know y'all like the video. I know every one of y'all like the video. I know I'm gonna see 90 likes there. I know I'm gonna see 90 likes, right, family? Y'all ain't gonna let me down, right? I know I'm gonna see 90 likes. Tell me I'm gonna see 90 likes when I go look at the likes. 90 or better, right, family? I know y'all ain't trying to sabotage the channel. I know y'all appreciate the information. I know y'all appreciate me debunking the pseudo information that's trying to destroy our delineation movement, our reparations claim. I know y'all got enough sense to like the video to prevent that from happening, right? Okay. So let's start with this right here. Now here's their leader. This is Queen Nzinga. Dr. Maya is Queen Nzinga. Let me see. Okay. All right. So before I play her words, let me damn, what is oh my God, it's late. Okay. Anyway, what does he say on cheaters? Anyway, Dr. Mayat's presentation follows a classic Pan-African rhetorical pattern. She's going to correctly distinguishes racialized chattel slavery from other unfree labor systems. She's going to acknowledge African participation in theory, right? It's common sense. But here's where she goes to the Pan-Afro-Can agenda. She's going to minimize African agency in practice. She's going to use context selectively. She's going to, like Africa gets nuance, Europeans get moral absolutism. Okay, watch this. In other words, she's going to give Africa pity and leniency, but go hard and send Europeans to hell for the same actions.
She's going to frame criticism of African participation as white talking points. So anybody bring up African participation in the slave trade, she's going to frame it as white talking points. She's going to use academic sources selectively and euphemistically. Okay. What happens is that creates a moral asymmetry, right? She's going to say Africa. She's going to contextualize it, humanize it, and fragment it, right? But Europe, she's going to make them monolithic, intentional, and uniquely evil. That's asymmetry. Okay. That is where the bad faith argument and contradictions I'm going to expose on this live. Okay, so let's start with this one right here. Make sure I got the right one, bang, bang. Oh, no, not that. I almost played some Sports Center stuff.
So there was never a time in the history of this world that there was chattel slavery anywhere outside of the Americas. It wasn't done in Africa. It wasn't done in Greece. It wasn't done in anywhere else in the world, anywhere else in the world where they claimed to have slavery. There was no other slavery that was done like what was done to Black folks that were brought over here in the transatlantic slave trade. So throw that shit out.
Right, absolutely. No, absolutely. And you had to actually you came in strong. You hit the hammer on the nail.
And Queen Nzinga stamped that lie. Chattel slavery was nowhere but America. All right. Oh my God, family. That's ahistorical. That's historically inaccurate. Okay, so listen. While the racialized hereditary form of American chattel slavery was unique in its scale and legal codification, chattel slavery, right? Where a person is legally considered the personal property of the owner. That existed in the Roman Empire, ancient Greece, and during the Arab slave trade. So that form of chattel slavery happened outside of America. That simple, that easy. Okay? So listen, these guys, you'll see, they got illogical arguments, bad faith arguments, logical fallacies, all type of garbageness. Okay, so by what they do is she's trying to redefine chattel to mean only an American style. She ignores centuries of global property-based enslavement. Okay, so again, racialized hereditary chattel slavery was uniquely systematized in the Americas, right? But lifetime inheritable slavery did exist elsewhere, including, I just said, Roman slavery, hereditary, Islamic slave system, hereditary in some regions. Her claim is she just she overdid it. She was reaching. Okay, so now a caller is going to call up and expose that and watch how they treat him. So she's wrong right there. What else are they wrong at?
Sister Constant, when you hear people say things like, Africans sold each other into slavery. The Africans sold Africans. What's your thoughts on that?
So first, I think that we have to stop adopting these Eurocentric talking points, because these are part of the things that keep us divided as people of African descent. We do that so often. We are all of the brothers and sisters in the diaspora. We are all brothers and sisters. So first, I think that we have to stop adopting divisions. These more so lately.
Sister Constant, when you hear people say things like,
So family, she said to hold Africans accountable for their role in the African slave trade, we are dividing. We're divisive. We're xenophobic. That's hate speech. She said that. That's hate speech. Family, that is a red herring. That is special pleading. She's labeling a historical fact as Eurocentric. That's a white man's talking point. That's MAGA talking point. That's white supremacy. Okay, that don't make it untrue. If a white supremacist did say that, if a MAGA person did say that, if Donald Trump said that, that don't make it untrue automatically. Okay, so they attempt to invalidate the argument based on the origin of the speaker rather than the evidence of the event. So if Donald Trump repeats that, all of a sudden it's fake. It's fake news now. Okay, so she uses that only defensively. She does not apply the same logic to Europeans. You'll see. I'm going to expose her double standard. Okay, so what she's going to do is, and what Queen Nzinga, aka Dr. Bayat, going to do, they're going to say Africans are not a monolith, right? But then they're going to treat Europeans as monolith, right? So when you say Africa enslaved us, you got to break down. You got to fragment, right? Common denominator, break down all the way to the last dot. And then we got to split atoms to explain Africa's role in the slave trade. But watch when they talk about Europeans, they're not going to fragment Europeans. They're not going to break down which European nation and which is the person name. They're going to just say Europe and European. They're going to treat Europe as a monolith. Okay. The bottom line, if tribal identity absolves Africans' nationality identity, then you must fragment Europeans too. That's what I'm saying. Same energy. Same energy. Okay, same energy. But again, they'll say that's MAGA talking point.
Says in Africa, slavery was often a system of incorporation into the society.
Now, this is going to be Queen Nzinga, Dr. Maya attempt to minimize Africa's role in slavery, try to make it seem, oh, it wasn't so bad. This is now you expect an African to do this, not somebody who say they're a freedman. Remember earlier?
Hold on, Sister Constant. Hold on. Let's go. Let's stop. She said it was incorporation, because we talked about earlier how chattel slavery, and there was a brother in the chat that said chattel slavery existed. He said chattel slavery existed. We said it was an American thing. There's a brother in the chat. Hold on, brother. I just saw your comment. Brother Corey, I'm not sure who he is. Corey Commercial RE. He said chattel slavery was done in other places. He said race-based chattel was specific to North America. We're going to unpack that later. But
no, unpack that now. They never unpacked that later, family. They never did. Okay. So
I want to go back here because I do want to talk about African slavery, right? What we're calling African slavery. It says in Africa, slavery was often, since we're talking about Africans sold other Africans into slavery, they was already doing enslavement. And you said, well, no, they didn't really look at it like, they didn't really understand that they were selling their people, or it's not selling their people, but selling other groups of Africans into chattel slavery, because you got to understand how they thought of slavery. So I wanted to unpack that. So it says in Africa, slavery was often a system of incorporation into the society. According to Robert Harms, it says when a newly purchased slave arrived in the Bobanji village, he was either a Mantambu, a purchased slave, or a Mantanji, a prisoner of war. War prisoners were usually sold again to get them as far as possible from the point of capture, but purchased slaves were genuinely incorporated into the society, which would generally lead to full membership. Are you with me? Are you with me, sister? Mm-hmm. So if we keep on going, right?
Full membership, she said, family. This is gross misrepresentation. This is gross. This is malinformation. This is disinformation. This is misinformation. And the guy is going to call up and call her on it. He's going to call up and call her on it.
If we keep on going, man, I want to read the whole thing because I don't want folks to say she's skipping around. Hey, let's get.
See, family, they select certain parts of the article, but now let's talk about what the article really says. Okay, so what she read from was Gwendolyn Hall to argue that African slavery was a system of incorporation into the family where slaves could be rich and powerful. Family, this is literally the epitome of cherry picking. Some African societies practice kinship slavery. Some. Dr. Maat ignores the more brutal forms of African slavery, such as the use of slaves for human sacrifice in the kingdom of Dahomey. You see, she didn't read that, and she won't read that, but a guy did read that, okay? Or the brutal labor in the salt mines of the Sahara. She selects the mildest version of the institution to represent the whole. Again, no credibility, lost it all. She omits African slavery varied drastically by region. Many African systems included permanent bondage, forced labor, sexual exploitation. She ain't gonna read. That's what Chief Karen. No, I ain't gonna. So she didn't do that. Ritual killings, e.g., Dahomey, as I said. So incorporation does not equate to absence of brutality. All right. She defines African slavery by its best cases, but when she go to European slavery, of course, she's gonna define their slavery by their worst cases. She ain't gonna read that Europeans allow blacks to buy themselves out of slavery. She's gonna go to the whipping, the buck breaking, family, sensationalizing. You can't trust her, man. Can't trust it. Can't trust it. You dig? Terrible, man. Terrible researcher. Terrible researcher. Faulty, garbage methodology practices. Dr. Rustin, you listening? Because I got you a few times, bro. Y'all better make sure y'all research is tight. I'm stripping all y'all credibility, and y'all got the doctorate degrees, so y'all can't make my mistakes. Don't y'all hold y'all degrees up like y'all part of a boule? Like we got to back down. You got this degree. Well, guess what? You can't make my mistakes. All right. This is piss poor scholarship, cherry picking, confirmation bias, garbage research for a doctor.
My thing is, you got to put it into proper context.
That's right.
Just like Africans had wars, Europeans had wars too. There were wars all over the world, and prisoners of wars were treated a certain way. So I capture this tribe. They're not of this tribe is not my family. This is another ethnicity, like you said. They're from a whole different tribe. We're not the same. So we're warring against another tribe. We capture them and we sell them. Did they have an idea that they were going to go across?
That's my phone. Somebody. I hate when my phone's connected. I hate when my phone's connected to the Bluetooth because any notification, it stops the play. So let's say if I was in a bathroom washing my hands or cooking, and I'm thinking it's just playing for you guys. If I forget to disconnect the Bluetooth, this would be paused the whole time. It happened one live or two lives. It ruined my line. I was so mad. But listen to this foolishness.
Capture them and we sell them. Did they have an idea that they were going to go across the oceans and be sold into chattel slavery?
Well, they didn't know initially, but they did because nobody ever returned. Don't forget, family, this happened after 200 years. So they definitely knew eventually that these people you selling is pretty much you're selling they knew, family, that they were selling them to their grave. The Ghana had the little, what's the Ghana thing? They called it the point of no return, something like that. They called it that. So, family, there's nobody more disingenuous than a Pan-Afro-Can.
For generations and generations, and the brutality that would come up as a result, I doubt it would have made a difference. I don't know. But you cannot say that we knowingly sold our brothers and sisters or our ancestors.
You don't sell your brothers and sisters into slavery.
Or Africans knowingly sold our brothers and sisters into slavery, knowing the brutality that was going to be on the other side. My thing is, you got to put it into proper context.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's put it in proper context. Okay. Oh my family. Where do I start with this one? You know what? I think I said enough. I think I said enough. They knew after a while that everybody they sold, they never seen again. They never return. Again, this ain't something that happened just for 20 years. This is 200 years of practice. 12 to 15 million of us went through those docks on ships. They never seen those 12 to 15 million people never came back. And you're telling me they never had an idea that you were selling these people to their grave? That they were not experiencing the worst brutality? Don't forget, we just read that these same Europeans tried to go kidnap us without doing a deal. And they fought with the Africans. So the Africans knew they were very violent. Okay. And they knew they had no good intentions for us. So again, family, wishful thinking, disrespectful, minimizing Africa's violent role and the criminal role in the transatlantic slave trade. This is ridiculous. But again, this is what Pan-Africans do. They signed up to be traders. They signed up to be traders, traitors, and traders, and raiders. Family, they're doing it all over again. They're kidnapping our minds to sell us back again. They trying to sell us. Now they're trying to sell us back to Africa. They sold us from Africa. Now they're trying to sell us back to Africa. They want us to rebuild Africa via free labor. Okay. Now listen to this nut right here. You're not gonna believe this analogy. This analogy was totally uncalled for. Listen to this.
Now let's get to the Africans' role in slavery.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it. Okay. They already had a system in place. But I can tell you what happened. So if I'm on a corner and I sell weed,
now, it would be him to use a drug analogy. Now, he openly admitted that he used to sell drugs before. He's supposed to reform. He's supposed to left that life behind. He's supposed to turn on a new leaf. He's supposed to be scientific literate. He's supposed to be teaching the babies. And when he goes to give some input, this dude goes from chattel slavery to a marijuana selling cocaine crack analogy. This is totally uncalled for. But who's surprised that he took this angle? Who is surprised on this angle from this guy?
Africans' role in slavery.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it. Okay.
Yeah, he remind me of Oscar the Grouch, yo. This is Oscar the Grouch. Who is surprised from Oscar the Grouch angle? A marijuana selling drugs, selling crack analogy. This is crazy.
They already had a system in place. But I can tell you what happened. So if I'm on a corner and I sell weed, selling weed, right, sometimes can be harmful. You can get killed doing it, you can get robbed, but it ain't like selling heroin and cocaine.
What about going to jail, my guy? You could get killed for it, get robbed. How about serving a life sentence? How about being a root cause of mass incarceration, man? The new Jim Crow. How about that alternative? How about going to prison? How about you don't get killed, you don't get robbed? How about you just do 20, 30-year bid in prison? Does that matter, man? See, like they just think about the good risks, right? Oh man, you can make $1 million, but you got to just dodge a bullet here and there, dodge a robbery, you'll be good. What about dodging the feds? What about dodging an indictment, man? That can 20, 30-year bid, bro.
Selling weed, right, sometimes can be harmful. You can get killed doing it, you can get robbed, but it ain't like selling heroin and cocaine.
Nope.
But if I got a network already set up for selling marijuana and some wild guys come in, right, that's already got a motive to send me globally come in, it's an easy plug and play. All they got to do is through lie, deceit, cheating, and all thing they did.
Family, he's comparing a legal slave trade with the elitists, the top chiefs, representatives of the European armies, European interests. This is legal. This ain't illegal. And these are the top people victimizing other people. This is human trafficking. The people he's talking about, the analogy wouldn't work because you got to show those weed dealers also involving themselves in human trafficking. Selling weed is illegal, bro. The leaders of our cities shun that. Our activists shun selling drugs. The traders and buyers, the sellers and buyers of the African slave trade, their leaders were all for it. That's a false equivalence. That's apples and oranges, but that's a horrible analogy. But again, who is surprised at that analogy? Who is surprised that he, the ex-drug dealer, would use a drug dealer analogy to downplay and minimize? Oh my God. Family, that analogy just downplays the violence of pre-colonial African warfare and enslavement. He's trying to give them a pass. Okay, enslaving a rival tribe or rival tribal member through war and potentially using them for ritual sacrifices is not equivalent to a dude selling marijuana. I mean, I shouldn't even have to say that. They go that far, family, to give these Africans a pass for their dusty, musty hand and selling us from the 12 to 15 millions to white people to do the worst to us.
It was no concept of Africa, Africans back then. So
family, now this is the attempt to control the narratives. Now we can't say Africans. They can say Africans, but we can't. When we hold them accountable, we can't say Africans. There's no concept of Africa at that time. So then nobody should say African then. But we don't like that word anyway, because it usually get misapplied to us as generic Africans. We'd rather just call them by their homeland. We don't have a problem with that. You're the ones that call everybody Africans. Now check this out, family. You can't call them Africans because you got to tell them which tribe, which chief, which coast. But they can sit here and say we got African ancestry. That's a double standard. No. Don't tell us African ancestry. Remember, tell us what tribe, what chief. These guys are too easy, man. That's why they dodge me. Well, I already beat up on multiple times. I'm done with him. This is why I want her.
Concept of Africa, Africans back then. You were saying, hold on, wait a minute. My tribe was my tribe. Your ethnicity was your ethnicity. I'm Awe. You are, I don't know, Akan, or you Akan, or you may be Yoruba, or whatever you were, but you weren't my people. We didn't look at each other like that. It was no.
Actually, I'm of the Mindi tribe. I did the African ancestry DNA.
Okay, cool. It was no.
That was so funny. Okay, cool. So now Africa is not a monolith. You got to now explain the tribes and coasts that were involved. But when it comes to Africa, but do they give Europeans that same consideration? Or do they just say Europeans as a monolith? Look at the double standard, family. You can't make this up.
Was not. We work 7 years. Then we get to assimilate into society. It was nothing like that. It was very racialized. And then they had to make us 3/5 of humans so that they can just.
Family, where'd she get that from? Where did she get? They had to make us 3/5 of humans. Is this Ursa? That's what Ursa said. Why do people repeat that lie? Nobody made us 3/5 of a human. It's called the 3/5 compromise. It's about voting. It's about voting. It had nothing to do with not making you human. This lies repeated too often in our circles. And listen, man, you can't make these mistakes like that in front of me. Ursa, I hope you paid attention. You cannot do that.
It was very racialized. And then they had to make us 3/5 of humans so that they can justify it. So
absolutely
very different.
No. I mean, I agree. I agree 1,000% with you. And I just want to drive home the point again, family, because I know some of our, family who's listening, and this, this is not the Maadian family, but
She's
some
talking about
people,
me.
when they look at this video and they chop it up and
was not.
Fam, she's talking about me. All right. So look, cause she knew the information that her codes was saying was garbage. She knew what Unc said about marijuana. So they know that I'm the only person who cooks them. Nobody else really paid them any mind. So she's talking about me. She said, I know this here. Be careful. There's people out there watching, not my audience, but people out there named Unbiased Ron. Cough, cough. He's out there. He's gonna chop this video up and cook us. So be careful what you say.
Who's listening, and this, this is not the Maadian. 1,000% with you. And I just want to drive home the point again, family, because I know some of our, family who's listening, and this, this is not the Maadian family, but some people, when they look at this video and they chop it up and
was not, we worked 7 years. Then we
okay. So one more time
to assimilate into society. It was nothing like that. It was very racialized. And then they had to make us 3/5 of humans so that they can justify it. So
absolutely
very different.
No. I mean, I agree. I agree 1,000% with you. And I just want to drive home the body. You know what I mean? And that's and it was brutal. 1,000% with you. And I just want to drive. But then, y'all, some parts of various forms of Europe, forced labor. It like very captivity and war labor, right? You want to call it, or some type of system of servitude. Call it war.
Call it forced labor. That's it.
Africa, Asia. You talk about chattel slavery. This whole slavery. I've been hearing.
Okay, damn. My computer is like tripping at the wrong time. For some reason, it's not. For some reason, it's not showing the whole thing. It's like weird. Anyway, matter of fact, let me close some tabs out. Let me close some tabs out. Maybe that might help. This drip right here, of course, the hat's it's like a men hat, but the shirt is both sexes, you dig? But I did some drip, you know what I mean, on cold drip. I'm playing around with it, right? So I'm a rock it first, you know what I mean? See where it go, and then if folks like the drip, then we'll do something else, right? But I'm a rock with it first before I'm gonna be the test subject for that. All right. Let me close some of these tabs. I don't mind. Close some of these tabs. I don't know why the computer ain't restarting. That. Get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Now let's see now. Yeah, and I don't want to download Firefox, but right now I'm using like Explorer. I'm before. I hate Explorer. I hate it. I'd be like, I don't want the extra space, but I guess I'm have no choice because this right here, this is ridiculous. All right, so let me do this. Let's go. Let's try this one.
Dr. Maat, slavery in North America was not that, and we know that. These people were animals.
But look, these people were animals. Now, family, remember, they said when it comes to Africans, we got to break down the tribe, the chiefs, the coast. They're not a monolith, right? They didn't see themselves as Africans, right? Now, look, these people are animals. Now, she's going to treat Europeans as a monolith. She's not going to give Europeans the same respect and say, hey, the Dutch, the Portuguese. She ain't going to do that. She's going to say the Europeans monolith. That's a double standard. You just said don't do that to Africa. Be specific. Tribes, chiefs, coast. But when it comes to Europeans, they're just a monolith. See, we don't do that over here. We keep the same standard.
These Europeans who had slaves.
The Europeans who had slaves, man, which one? Remember, they're not a monolith. You got to break it down. Which nation? And guess what? She ain't gonna do it.
And people in North America was not that, and we know that. These people were animals. These Europeans who had slaves were animals.
Europeans.
They were brutal. They were murderous.
Monolith.
They were rapers. They were just inhumane. They were non-human.
Monolith.
And it's
There's
not
one
the
person.
same thing. So
There's one big European. She don't break it down.
When they try to make the comparison and they try to water down what we've gone through, that's what pisses me off. And that's the reason why I even had to
wait, the watering down is your part. Y'all trying to explain away the brutality of African slavery. Okay, so yep, so that's a double standard. You asked that we don't call Africans Africans. We speak to the tribes that were involved in the slave trade. All of European nations was involved in the slave trade. I don't believe Russia was over there. But when you say Europe, you're including all of Europe, including Russia. You dig? So that's a double standard. That's a bad faith position to take. I'm not surprised.
It's not a crease in that book, doctor. It ain't one crease in the book.
You crazy.
Okay, so I'm gonna show you at my screen. This is hilarious. So Dr. Maat got caught. She got caught trying to show a book. They always do this. So she ended up showing a book that had no creases in it. It was a brand new book, and she's acting like she read it. That's why the brother was like, "Yo, there ain't no crease in that book. You didn't read that book." So like he called her out, like, "Yo, you didn't read that book. There's not one crease." She looked right there. She's just like, all they do, fam, is hold up books to intimidate you. Like they're just so studied. Look all these look they do it. Look all the books behind her. Dr. Ruxpin, y'all gotta stop doing this, man. We're not convinced, my guy. This book is brand new. He said it's not one crease in that book. Look, they just do the book thing. He does it, everybody does it. Look at this.
It's not a crease in that book, doctor. It ain't one crease in the book.
You crazy. You crazy.
So now he said in the Diop book, it's not one crease in that. She goes and get another book and said, you crazy. Look, this is bent up. No, go get the red Diop book. He's saying the book you were holding up, this one right here. He's saying that one you never read. That thing was white. Those pages are crystal clear white. Okay, crispy pages, not one crease. You put that book down and bring up another book you were sifting through, and you said, you crazy. Look. This is terrible.
Nope.
It's not a crease in that book, doctor. It ain't one crease in the book.
You crazy. You crazy. You crazy. You crazy. You crazy. You crazy.
Oh, hey, Doc.
Crazy.
Hey,
Hold on, you crazy. You crazy. Hold on. Look. Hey, Trevor. So turn the camera on and show us your book. Show me your books. Show me your books, Trevor.
Yeah,
show me your books.
See, hold on. I would have turned it on already.
Yeah, here it is. There it is. You see my stuff. Scratches, highlights.
Yeah, but get the other book. Get the red one. There was no scratch, no highlight. You never read it. They're collector items to y'all.
Yeah, that's one book, sister.
So no, it's four.
Well,
Trevor, you're just deflecting from the fact that you don't read and you want to jump in.
Ma'am, you didn't prove you read the book, the first book. That thing was brand new. I agree with Trevor. But why do they all do that? They hold up books and they pretend none of us read books. How about, that's a dangerous position to take. Because on a live, you get embarrassed. Then we tell you about the book. Then we show the book. Then we tell you about it. Then we ask you about it. And you don't know what's in the book. That's it. The one thing I'm not going to do is tell somebody didn't read something unless we discussed it and it was apparent they didn't read it because they couldn't recall anything from the information, you feel me, from the literature. But I'm not just going to blindly say you don't read books. But that's the arrogance of these Pan-Afro cans. That is the arrogance.
Paragraph. as to how the trade was conducted. How trade was conducted.
Anyway, I'm gonna save our time with this guy. This brother was just reading the part she left out, how brutal slavery was in Africa amongst the Africans. Okay, that's all he did. I'll play a little bit, then I'm gonna stop it.
Coastal rulers had welcomed the European traders in hope that they too would benefit from the trade. So they arranged that all major trade transactions should be carried out only on the coast, only on the coast. The European traders were therefore forbidden to go into the interior to trade and had to pay rents and other tribute to coastal rulers for permission to trade. The ruler was the trader's landlord, and the trader became the ruler's stranger. The landlord was responsible for the stranger's security as well as for his actions. As trade developed, more European goods were exchanged for ivory, beeswax, cowhides.
They sold us for cowhides and beeswax and ivory. Can't make this up.
We don't shy away from African participation in it.
Yes, you do. You did it the whole 1,000 hours of this video y'all put out.
Enslavement. What we try to do is understand what their role was. You know, we don't sit there and say it didn't happen. It clearly happened. The Portuguese talk about it in their record.
She's bringing. They can't just talk without holding up books. She said the Portuguese. They're trying to convince us they're just so well studied.
Right? That
hey, look, it doesn't matter how many books you read if you're just looking for the things you agree with.
Africans on that continent did play a role, you know, in our enslavement. And I don't think that Pan-Africans shy away from that.
Yes,
we don't shy away from African participation in it.
Type them out. I just debated 4 people. I just showed you. Everybody said the Dutch, the white man. When I talk about who kidnapped us, who stole us, who raided us, who took us, they all said white people. That's called shying away of accountability. What are you talking about?
But let's keep going. Let's keep going because you mentioned Dahomey. So it says in Dahomean tradition, one of the fundamental laws attributed to the founder king Wegbakcha, I probably butchered it, in the 17th century prohibited the sale of slaves of anyone born within the kingdom, contravention being a capital offense. In principle, this rule was enforced so rigorously as to prohibit the sale even of female captives who became pregnant while in transit to Dahomey. So I do understand why you brought up Dahomey. I do understand that, but I do want you to understand that around that time in the 17th century, at one point, they prohibited the sale, because they sold their own people. They prohibited the sale of slaves of anyone born within the kingdom. Contravention.
They prohibited the sale. Shit. Well, the UK, I mean, like slavery was abolished. Okay, that don't make what that mean. But when they made slavery illegal, when white folks made slavery illegal, right? What that mean? That means the people who were doing the buying and brutality, and is it all good now? You're still wrong. Okay, still wrong. That don't make it okay now, because it don't make you okay, because you now prohibit the sales. In some cases, now you decided to prohibit sales. Nah, I'm good. After you got fat and rich, you got 1,000 slaves and you good. You got no more room and money for any more. So now you prohibit. I'm good. No more. No, okay, I'm gonna make selling slaves from this point illegal. Bro, you're already fat now. Family. What she did not read about the Dahomey is that they raided neighbors specifically for export. They conducted mass ritual sacrifices that she never read. They actively resisted abolition. So she talking about they prohibited the sales, but they also actively resisted abolition. They was not trying to. They were not trying to hear no abolitionists. Okay, so protecting insiders while exploiting outsiders is not abolition, it's nationalism. So the inside, the in cells, they prohibited, but the out cells, the people they were not related to, they said keep it coming. Okay, so let me point out the double standards and we out here, family. All right, so she said Africa is not a monolith. Then they treat European as a united moral character. They're evil. They're disgusting. She make them a monolith. Okay. She never says not all Europeans. They never say different European states. They never say different time periods. They monolith Europeans like crazy. African slavery is explained through anthropology, kinship, economics. They prohibited the cells. But European slavery, they explain through moral evil alone. So they provide context for one and condemnation for the other. That's not scholarship. The Africans, they didn't know what was going to happen to the slaves when they sold them. Limited foresight, reactive, right? But Europeans, they fully were aware of all of the evils that would befall the slaves that they bought. So that removes African strategic agency while preserving European agency. Ridiculous. Okay. So she told a little truth, a lot of lies. So some of the truth, I agree with Dr. Maat on what made American chattel slavery unique. That's obvious. We were part of it. We're Adolf. We're FBA. Where I disagree is the selective use of context and accountability, minimizing Africa's role and maximizing European role. Okay. Dr. Maat. If Africa isn't a monolith, Europe isn't either. You got to be fair. If Africa isn't a monolith, neither is Europe. You don't get nuance for one side and moral absolutism for the other. Okay. You cannot do that. Okay. Acknowledging African participation isn't white talking points. That isn't MAGA talking points. That isn't white supremacy talking points. Okay. It's historical literacy. Unity doesn't require dishonesty. You don't got to lie to kick it. You ain't got to lie to kick it. So Trevor, when he was trying to point out when they allowed him more, he was protesting when the British tried to stop the slave trade. You see what I'm saying? So the Dahomey tribe, they prohibited the sales of slavery. And then Trevor points out when the British tried to stop the slave trade. He's like, so did they get credit for that? That's a historical fact. King Gezo famously said in the 1840s that the slave trade was the ruling principle of his people. That's an African chief. He said the slave trade was the ruling principle of his people. Dr. Maat's attempt to paint this as Eurocentric, MAGA, white man talking point, white supremacy talking point, is a refusal to acknowledge Africans' political and economic agency. Dahomey and the slave trade. Okay. You want to know sources? Dahomey and the Slave Trade by Carl Polanyi. The Slave Trade by Hugh Thomas, specifically the chapters on the Bight of Benin, A Mission to Gilel, King of Dahomey, by Richard Burton, first-hand 19th century account. You always want sources. Okay. Sorry, family, to keep you up so late. But I think that's enough on this one. And I wasn't going to cook her. I was going to leave them alone. But one of her goons had tagged my name in one of his failed posts, his live things, whatever. So I said, "Oh, really?" I was gonna let y'all be, man. I said, you know what? Because I have stuff on them. Like I still got stuff on Dr. Ruxpin. I just decided not to do it. So let me go back to what I do. You feel me? Let me leave these folks alone. But when her goon tagged my name in something, his live, I said, all right, bro. Okay, I'll get you. I'm not, and it won't just be you. I'm gonna take a lot of y'all down. And I left Dr. Ruxpin alone. So Dr. Ruxpin, man, this is a warning. Leave my name out of what y'all doing. Say everybody else. Don't say me. Cause I got some content on you that I just left alone. Cause I already had this right here. This ain't most of the stuff was there. I just decided not to do it. Like I said, I did my own thing. I started to do what I like to do. So, so a lot of people didn't see me and George making video we did with Sharpen the Iron. We were talking about who's black and who's not. That was a great discussion. I think I'm gonna play that tomorrow morning. I think I'm gonna couple that with immigration. How is it possible that immigrants can gentrify black people? Because the definition of gentrification is wealthier people, people with higher income are those who gentrify you, not people who's barely legal, who just got here yesterday with no income. Like there's no way that they could gentrify people that's making more money than them and own houses, rent houses, got credit, lived there their whole life. But I go into how they were allowed to gentrify us, like as a placement holder, because it just looks bad if white folks just buy everything and kick us out. It looks like the HLC all over again. It looks like redlining. It looks like typical white supremacy. So they got slick. They said, all right, let's gentrify them with their own, because they claim we're this minority group. So let's gentrify them with their brown brothers. And then then we'll let them stay for a couple of years. Then we're gonna bring ICE through. Because that's what's gonna happen, family. I guarantee you, all these places in a few years, I'll say about five more years. Because I know New Brunswick is fully gentrified. It's all Mexicans there or Latinos. Where I'm at is getting there. I know they got a lot of white people now, and I'm telling you, family. Right before the pandemic, you'd be lucky if you seen any. Like I'm talking about, like on the outskirts, you'll see some, but inland, like we was reading right there, inland, you ain't seen the white folks here before the pandemic. That's why some people say the pandemic was a plandemic. And the white folks in the city. No, man, you go to certain places, there's nothing but white folks there. It's a strange, eerie, it's like a weird feeling. Like it's not that it's nothing wrong with them. It's that this community was like mainly black and it was black at one point, then gentrified by Latinos. It became black and Latino like 50-50. And now since the pandemic, it's been like I think Latinos outnumbered. It's like 60-40, something like that. 65-35, and now shit, it's like 65-15, and the rest are white folks. You dig? So anyway, in about 5 years, they're gonna run ICE through these cities and get those Hispanic people out, and that's when they're gonna buy up. That's what happens, family. That's what the data says. They said they use these immigrants, and not just Latinos, the Caribbean, West Africa. They use them. The poor Indians, they use them as buffers, replacement holders. They use them to take over for a period of time until it's all forgotten about. We move down south, forgot all about it. We come back up to Jersey for whatever reason. We're gonna see a sundown town, where it used to be our city. And they're gonna be like whites only. Like, damn, where did Latinos go? Oh, they all deported. Okay, so do that tomorrow, and I'm gonna do what else? I'm gonna do. Did I any revenue content? I do anything with revenue. Who I do something with? But those two for sure. Those two for sure. Okay. So hopefully you guys are good. We out here, family.